Chapter 588. The strange phenomenon of the chaotic burial valley attracted many self-cultivators from the Moyen mountain range, but they couldn't explain how the chaotic burial valley was destroyed. There were traces of fierce fighting all around, and this kind of power had long exceeded their understanding. The immortal confinement prison had just been lifted, and the spiritual energy was very scarce. It was impossible for anyone to reach the nascent soul stage for at least 100 years. After the Qingsong Taoists left the Moyen mountain range, the self-cultivators here were only at the 9th level of the gold core stage. They didn't have broad knowledge, so they didn't know how this situation happened. If they knew that it was destroyed by something even more powerful than the spirit-severing stage, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. In their knowledge, the nascent soul stage was already quite heaven-defying. How could there be a spirit-severing stage? The chaotic burial valley wasn't a small valley, but it stretched for thousands of meters. Such a large place collapsed and was filled with gravel in the blink of an eye. This kind of power had exceeded all the self-cultivators' expectations. After everyone left, Muyu once again appeared in the chaotic burial valley. Because it was said that Akatsuki broke free from the seal, the purpose of his return was to find the so-called seal. Little Shuai, can you remember which of your distant relatives Akatsuki is? Muyu asked. Little Shuai always said that he was very familiar with Akatsuki, who was afraid of sunlight. He seemed to have seen it before, but he just couldn't remember. I'll emphasize for the 250th time that it's not my relative. I don't have such an ugly relative. Little Shuai wagged his tail. It's not the familiarity of relatives, but the familiarity of disgust. It's like you hate the Japanese, but you're very familiar with the aura of the Japanese. Muyu couldn't help laughing. Little Shuai always liked to call the people from the Gate of Hell Japanese. He found that this name was quite appropriate. However, Little Shuai was right. He was very familiar with the aura of the people from the Gate of Hell, mainly because he had fought with them more than once or twice. He didn't expect Little Commander to remember anything else. Instead, he began to survey the terrain of Mass Gray Valley. If necessary, he would directly set up an indestructible formation to seal this place, preventing the people from the Gate of Hell from returning to do something bad. Muyu circled around the disorderly burial valley and found that the fog that usually filled this place all year round seemed to have disappeared, and it no longer looked so gloomy. That flesh-winged horned monster's self-destruction is so powerful, Dragon Vine said as he looked at the devastated Mass Burial Valley. Most of the cracks in Chaotic Burial Valley were caused by their battle, but ever since Akatsuki's explosion, Chaotic Burial Valley had been completely buried by rubble. What made Muyu feel strange was that Mass Gray Valley was at least 6,000 meters deep. Even though Akatsuki had exploded under the sun, the explosion seemed to have only happened at the edge of Mass Gray Valley and did not spread to other places. The power of the explosion is clearly not right. Muyu stood on top of a pile of rubble. The disorderly burial valley had only caved in about 10 meters, and not many pieces of rubble had rolled down. How could a 6,000-meter-deep, disorderly burial valley be filled with rubble? This did not make any sense at all. The appearance of these stones was very strange. It was as if they had deliberately appeared to seal the entire chaotic burial valley. Moreover, they had sealed the entire valley. Muyu stepped on the rubble, and it was very hard. It was as if it had existed for a long time. Strange. Why do these rubble look so similar to the rubble we saw at the bottom of Mass Gray Valley? Muyu said with surprise. He suddenly thought of a possibility, and it made him feel a little strange. Do you guys think that these rubble are the same as the rubble at the bottom of Mass Gray Valley? Are they trying to deceive themselves? Did Akatsuki actually come out from the rubble at the bottom of Mass Gray Valley? Muyu asked with surprise. Many things that had happened so far did not make sense. First of all, Akatsuki had said that it had broken free from the seal, but the people from the Gate of Hell had come to rescue it, and yet they did not seem to know where it had been sealed. And so many dead people had been thrown into Chaotic Burial Valley, and Muyu had not seen any dead people at the bottom of the valley. Then, Akatsuki had summoned a lot of corpse water of the underworld from somewhere, and it had slowly covered the entire Chaotic Burial Valley. It was very strange. Where did the corpse water of the underworld come from in the first place? It's possible. Maybe we missed something at the bottom of chaotic burial valley. Little Schwein nodded. Old Sue said that every time a dead person was thrown down, there would be a rumbling sound of thunder and lightning. This sound should be the sound of the corpse water of the underworld rushing past, which meant that the corpse water of the underworld was in chaotic burial valley. Muyu had searched the entire chaotic burial valley from the beginning, and he did not find any gaps or seals. However, he did not check the rubble at the bottom of chaotic burial valley. He suddenly thought of something. What if the bottom of chaotic burial valley did not have a bottom, and there were hidden spaces under the rubble at the bottom of chaotic burial valley? This would explain where the corpse water of the underworld was and where Akatsuki had come out from. Then there's only one way to test it. We're going to run down to the bottom of chaotic burial valley again, right? Dragonvine did not care. It only came out occasionally to talk. However, little Shuai was very unwilling. It had never liked this place. Even if Akatsuki had self-destructed, chaotic burial valley still made it feel uncomfortable. Muyu tried to use brute force to dig a hole in the rubble, but he did not succeed. These rubbles seemed to be condensed together by some kind of special power. It was very solid. Even with his spirit-severing stage cultivation, he could not break it. Just like when he was fighting with Akatsuki at the bottom of chaotic burial valley, he did not realize that their fight did not destroy the rubble at the bottom of chaotic burial valley. However, this was not a problem for him. Mu Ling was the best at drilling. With the help of Mu Ling's roots, he successfully drilled down the rubble. After drilling for about a few hundred meters, Mu Ling's roots stepped on empty air and came to a dark place. The flame of the cinder firestone suddenly burned, illuminating the area. He looked around and found that this was the chaotic burial valley. The surrounding rock walls were still covered with frost, and above Muyu's head were the rubble that covered the sky. It was attracted by some kind of power and floated in the air, completely covering the top of chaotic burial valley. It seems that there is a chance. This means that the rubble at the bottom of chaotic burial valley must be sealed by this strange power. Muyu continued to sink down to the bottom of the dark valley. A height of 6,000 meters was very fast for him. He quickly sank to the bottom of the valley and stood on top of the rubble again. He did not hesitate. He let Mu Ling turn into a root and sneak into the rubble and continued to climb down. This time, he did not sink for long. After about a few dozen meters, he directly came to another space. He looked down. What he saw was no longer the narrow bottom of the valley. It was more like a boundless starry sky. It was a void of darkness. In the distance, there was a faint golden light in the sky. It was like a group of stars shining. The rock walls of chaotic burial valley had disappeared. The rubble above him seemed to be casually piled up there. There was nothing restricting it. There were pieces of rubble floating in the air. These rubble were of different sizes. They floated aimlessly and occasionally bumped into each other. They did not make a sound and just continued to float in a different direction. Where is this? Are we in the starry sky? Muyu asked in surprise. Little Shuai also jumped onto Muyu's shoulder. He carefully looked at the golden light in the distance and then looked at the floating rubble beside him. He did not know where the faint light came from. What a familiar feeling. Little Shuai scratched his head. Muyu did not tease Little Shuai this time because he also felt a familiar aura. Then he gently jumped. The rubble here was floating, but his whole body was not affected. He tapped the rubble with the tip of his foot and flew towards the light in the distance. When he got closer, he realized that the light was not starlight at all. They were ancient golden inscriptions. These inscriptions were incomplete in some places. They floated weakly, and there were countless array patterns around them. The spiritual power in the array patterns was very weak. This is an array formation. Muyu was very shocked. He did not expect that there would be such a space under chaotic burial valley. This space was very vast and boundless, but there seemed to be a faint boundary of array patterns separating it. Muyu was at the place where the boundary of the array patterns was broken. Akatsuki said that it broke free from the seal. Could it be referring to the seal? Muyu was amazed. This array pattern seemed to be purely for the purpose of protecting the rubble that Mu Yu had just come down. Through the inscriptions and array patterns, he could see that there seemed to be something roaring in the darkness in the distance. Little Shuai's hand touched the inscriptions, and he suddenly let out a soft. He then exclaimed, "What a familiar array formation. Ah, I know who set up this array formation." "Who?" "The white-bearded old man." Mu Yu's eyes widened. "Really? Are you sure?" The inscriptions and array patterns here were actually set up by his master. Did that mean that his master had been here before? Another layer of fog covered his master. "Of course I'm not mistaken. The array patterns and inscriptions here are the same as the array formation at Falling Dust Mountain. How could I forget such a familiar spiritual power? Don't forget that I stayed in the spirit Chi for a long time," Little Shuai said confidently. "The spirit Chi was the foundation of all the arrays at Falling Dust Mountain. The spiritual power of the arrays all came from the spirit Chi. Little Shuai had been used to block the spirit Chi for a long time, so he was very familiar with the aura of Feng Haochen's array formation. Could it be that Master sealed Akatsuki here? Even though Mu Yu was now the sect master of the formation glyph sect, he still felt inferior to his master's array formation. His master's array formation skills far surpassed his. He was a very mysterious old man who seemed to be everywhere. But when he thought of his master, Mu Yu felt a wave of worry. His master had fallen into the hands of the Third Layer Palace, and he didn't even know where the Third Layer Palace was. I knew that the flesh-winged horned monster was familiar and annoying. I understand now. The white-bearded old man didn't seal the flesh-winged horned monster, but to prevent it from running over from the other side of the seal. Little Shuai had a look of realization. To prevent the flesh-winged horned monsters from running over? Where is that? Mu Yu asked curiously. Little Shuai didn't answer him. Instead, he said in a serious tone, "Mu Yu, we must immediately repair this array formation. We can't let those flesh-winged horned monsters run over." The white-bearded old man seemed to hate those ugly monsters. Chapter 589. Of course, there's more than one. If I'm not wrong, there should be 8 colors. There are countless of them, and they're very powerful, Xiao Shuai said with certainty. You guessed. Mu Yu glanced at Xiao Shuai. Xiao Shuai scratched his head embarrassedly and laughed. All right, that's my feeling. Anyway, it's a very familiar feeling. The old man must have brought me here before, and he should have been to the other side. Xiao Shuai pointed to the other side of the formation, which was outside of the hole. What's that on the other side? Mu Yu still didn't understand. Xiao Shuai said seriously, it's a very annoying thing. Anyway, hurry up and fix this seal. The old man wouldn't make something out of nothing. Mu Yu looked at the hole in the formation before him and then looked at the boundary of the formation. The formation was spherical in shape, and it covered the broken stones that had just entered. It looked to be at least 1,000 meters in diameter. The hole in the formation was only a meter in diameter. It was insignificant compared to the entire formation. However, it was this insignificant hole that allowed Akatsuki, the ugly monster with wings and horns, to escape. She had almost caused a huge problem. Mu Yu carefully looked at the structure of the formation in front of him and deduced in his heart. In the end, he shook his head slightly. It's a little difficult to fix this formation. Although he had received all the inheritance of the formation Heavenly Tao and even learned many of Deadwood Daddy's formations, it didn't mean that he knew all the formations in the world. Even if he had the formation hall, it was impossible to control this formation. Although the formation hall and the formation runestone were said to be able to control and break all the formations in the world, this was only relative to some of the more common formations. The complexity of the formation in front of him was beyond Mu Yu's imagination. It was just like the 9th heaven sealing demon formation in his body. It wasn't something that he could control. Moreover, this formation was set up by Jianing Qinfeng. His formation skills were much better than Mu Yu's. Mu Yu carefully approached the hole in the formation. The closer he got to the hole, the more his heart palpitated. In the end, he even felt that his breathing was a little rushed. The aura outside the formation was very strong. He felt like there was a rock on his chest. The closer he got, the heavier the rock became. He moved to the hole in the formation and carefully looked through the hole to see what was outside the formation. All he could see was a void of darkness. There seemed to be some shadows moving quickly in the darkness, and there were even some white lights mixed in. The speed of those white lights was very fast, and they disappeared in a flash. It was impossible to see what they were. When Muyu put his hand on the hole, a huge pressure rushed towards him. This is heaven and earth's barrier? Muyu looked at the terrifying pressure in surprise. He recalled the time when he returned from the second layer of heaven to the third layer of heaven. He had withstood the pressure from the two worlds through the wood spirit. That terrifying feeling was still fresh in Muyu's memory. Heaven and earth's barrier? Is that the rat hole you mentioned last time? Dragon Vine didn't go to the second layer of heaven with them, so it didn't know what happened. What rat hole? Big earthworm. Can you be a little more educated? Little Handsome scolded. Didn't you say you came back through the hole? Dragon Vine curiously stretched out its claws, wanting to get closer to the hole, but Muyu quickly pulled it back. Don't stretch your hand out. It will instantly destroy your hand. Muyu didn't think Dragon Vine was as thick-skinned as Little Handsome. Heaven and earth's barrier. If I'm not wrong, there should be another world after passing through here. Little Handsome said seriously. Heaven and earth's barrier? Then does this also lead to the second layer of heaven? Muyu didn't understand. The existence of the spirit chi, was because the spirit chi between the third and second layer of heaven was not balanced. It caused a hole to appear in the weak point of the two worlds, connecting the two worlds. Back when Muyu didn't have the teleportation jade pendant, he relied on Mu Ling to pass through the heaven and earth's barrier to return to the third layer of heaven. It doesn't necessarily lead to the second layer of heaven. There are other worlds. The spirit chi is only one way to pass through the heaven and earth's barrier. There are other ways to break through the heaven and earth's barrier to go back and forth between the two worlds. The heaven and earth barrier is something that is very difficult to explain. It can be understood as the wall between the two worlds. Some places are very weak, while some places are very wide. It's so wide that you can't even imagine it. Little Handsome was in a daze when he explained this. He was like a confused bug that had forgotten a lot of memories. Some things needed to be slowly recalled. He thought for a long time and continued. The weak point is as thin as a piece of paper. It's easy to form the spirit chi. The spirit chi is a passage that can be quickly passed through. And in the wide area, you don't even know where the other end of this illusory wall is. It's even longer than crossing an entire world. If we rashly go in, we will definitely get lost in the heaven and earth's barrier. If we can't find the exit, then we're done for. The heaven and earth barrier was actually compared to a piece of paper by Little Handsome. This was hard to accept. But even if it was the thickness of a piece of paper, according to Little Handsome's explanation, even a tribulation passing stage cultivator wouldn't be able to break it. Didn't that flesh-winged horn monster come in through here? This means that the heaven and earth's barrier isn't wide. Should we go and see the world it's in? Long Tongue was very enthusiastic about this. Not going. Its world must be very disgusting. Little Handsome shook his head. Muyu also didn't have that idea. Although he had Mu Ling that could guarantee his survival in the heaven and earth's barrier and could even reach the world where Akatsuki was, his purpose of coming here wasn't to explore other worlds. Moreover, he felt that something was strange. If Akatsuki came in through the heaven and earth's barrier, then when did the Yellow Springs corpse water form? And why would the people from the Gate of Hell know that someone from another world was coming and send people to receive them? Muyu's hand touched the surrounding formation pattern and carefully checked the spirit energy in the formation pattern. After comparing it with the other formation patterns that weren't damaged, he found that the formation pattern wasn't damaged for a long time. However, it was gradually expanding. Clearly, if one place was damaged, it would affect other places. Perhaps in a few years, this formation pattern would disappear. What would happen at that time? Muyu conveyed this question to Little Handsome. Little Handsome seriously pondered for a long time and said, if the formation pattern disappears, nothing will happen. Didn't you notice that the rocks on the walls of Chaotic Burial Valley are very strong? We didn't break a single rock when we fought. We only broke a few rocks on the top of Chaotic Burial Valley. Muyu nodded. The structure of Chaotic Burial Valley was indeed very strong. When looking down from the sky, Chaotic Burial Valley looks like a crack. This crack is actually the crack of this world. Entering this crack is equivalent to entering the heaven and earth's barrier. It's just that the heaven and earth barrier here isn't as thin as the spirit energy eye of the second and third layer. Therefore, if we blindly enter, we will get lost in the heaven and earth's barrier. After pausing for a moment, Little Handsome continued. Perhaps in order to hide this dangerous place, the white-bearded old man used a formation to forcefully restrict the heaven and earth's barrier to such a deep place. The pile of rocks is also very strong. Although there are gaps between them, they're indestructible and can withstand the pressure of the heaven and earth's barrier. Perhaps the white-bearded old man did it. Akatsuki's self-destruction created a huge power and inadvertently triggered some kind of protective measure. Muyu was very surprised. Muyu had seen the terrifying destructive power of the heaven and earth's barrier before. At that time, he felt that he wasn't even as good as a speck of dust in front of this kind of power. Even now, he still felt the same way. However, Master was actually able to forcefully restrict the heaven and earth's barrier to such a deep place with a formation. Just how strong was Master in the past? But this formation is so complicated. How did the flesh-winged, horned monster break it? With its little formation skills, it didn't even notice that I set a trap for it. How did it have the ability to break Master's powerful formation? Muyu still didn't understand. Moreover, even if he were to break this formation now, he might not be able to create such a big hole. The formation patterns here were too mysterious, and he couldn't figure out. I suspect that the flesh-winged horned monster might have wanted to come from another world, but it was blocked by this formation. Think about it. Such a disgusting monster can't be separated from the dead. The netherworld corpse water is also corrosive and can absorb spiritual power. Therefore, it must have used the netherworld corpse water to corrode a small hole and then use the small hole to control the dead people above. Little Handsome guessed. Muyu carefully calculated the distribution of spiritual power in the entire formation, and then calculated the corrosive power of the netherworld corpse water. He felt that with that kind of corrosive power, it would take at least a few hundred years to drill a small hole. This flesh-winged horned monster actually had so much patience. However, this wasn't the time to praise its patience. Since one guy ran over, it was hard to say if a second one would run over. He had to help Master repair this formation. If he wanted to repair a formation, he had to first learn this formation and familiarize himself with the use of every spirit pattern in this formation. Otherwise, if his method of drawing spirit patterns conflicted with Master's formation patterns, it was very likely that it would worsen the degree of damage to this formation and even cause him to lose his life. Master, you didn't teach me the formation, but in the end, I was the one who helped you repair the formation. I wonder how you are now. Muyu sighed. Master had set up this terrifying formation not only to hide the crack in the third layer of heaven, but also to prevent monsters from other worlds like Akatsuki from invading the third layer of heaven. He had sacrificed so much for the peace of the third layer of heaven, but now he was trapped and his whereabouts were unknown. Little Handsome wagged his tail. I hope the white-bearded old man is fine. In any case, let's first fill up this gap. The formation patterns in the distance were constantly flashing, and the inscriptions were also quickly flowing. However, those strange flowing lights dimmed when they reached the gap. At the same time, the entire formation was constantly weakening. Muyu didn't understand this complicated formation. He needed to calculate the general layout of the formation based on the distribution of these inscriptions and formation patterns. This was a very difficult process, and it was also very strenuous for Muyu. However, Muyu and Little Handsome didn't expect that in the barrier of heaven and earth far away from this seal, a flowing light was rapidly shuttling through the barrier of heaven and earth. It didn't seem to care about the pressure of the barrier of heaven and earth at all, as if it was taking a leisurely stroll. Chapter 590. The Moya Mountain Range was isolated from the rest of the world. The only way to reach the 3 continents was through the vast 100,000 mountains. The other 3 directions were surrounded by the endless sea. At this moment, on the eastern coast of the Moyun mountain range, the bright sun shone on the beach. The seawater gently slapped against the reefs, making splashing sounds. The seagulls chirped softly, and the sea breeze whistled. In the distance, a few fishermen were preparing to go out to sea to fish. Their skin was very tanned. They relied on fishing for a living all year round. The sea breeze had left some indelible marks on their bodies. "Old Zhang, where are you going today?" a middle-aged man asked. "Near Spoonfield Island." "Old Liang, where are you?" another fisherman asked after checking the fishing net. "I'm going to Mountain Rock Island. My wife just gave birth to a boy for us. I'm going there to catch a few sea turtles to nourish her body," Old Liang said excitedly. "Then we're going the same way. Let's go together," Old Zhang said with a smile. Old Zhang smiled as he untied the mooring rope and pushed the oars against the reefs. The boat swayed and left the shore. However, at this moment, Old Liang's smile suddenly disappeared. He looked into the distance, strangely. 8 strange figures appeared on the rugged reefs in the distance. Their bodies were filled with billowing black fog, like the souls of the underworld. It made one's heart palpitate. It was this strange aura that made Old Zhang unable to smile. He even felt a little flustered. The leader of the 8 people was a black shadow sitting cross-legged on the ground. It was called a black shadow because it gave off an illusory feeling. It was as though it had no body and was just a shadow. However, it was different from shadow. "Old Zhang, those people aren't souls, right?" Old Liang said in surprise. Old Zhang looked in the direction he was pointing at and was also shocked. "These people are still emitting black smoke. Could it be that they're ominous?" "Let's leave this place quickly," Old Liang said nervously. Just as they were about to paddle away, more than 10 black shadows suddenly streaked across the sky. These black shadows were like ghosts as they passed over their heads. A sinister aura immediately enveloped Old Zhang and Old Liang. The 2 of them had mortal bodies. When they were tainted by this sinister aura, they felt as though they had fallen into an ice cellar. It was clearly the hottest day of the summer, but they felt as though they had stepped into winter. The 2 of them looked at each other in horror and hurriedly rode away as fast as they could. The dozen or so ghostly shadows were none other than Gue Han and the others. After they had collected enough demonic bee souls in the Moyun mountain range, they had followed the Spirit Lord's orders to rescue Akatsuki. However, they had never imagined that Akatsuki would actually self-destruct under the sunlight in a mass burial valley. Your subordinate greets the Venerable One. Gue Han landed on the reef and knelt before the black figure on the reef. "Where are the others?" The illusory black shadow asked faintly. Gue Han seemed to be very afraid of the illusory black shadow. He did not even dare to raise his head to look at it. He said in a trembling voice, reporting to the Venerable One, the others have been killed." A terrifying aura suddenly enveloped the area. Even the surging waves were fixed in place by a mysterious power, unable to fall back down for a long time. The faces of everyone from the gate of hell changed. They all knelt on the ground, not daring to say a word. Gue Han's group originally had more than 100 people, but now there were only 17 left. A portion of them were killed by Muyu. The rest were killed by Akatsuki's self-destruction. "Give me a reasonable explanation," the illusory black shadow said faintly. Gue Han was already paralyzed on the ground. He could not move at all. He was a body fusion stage cultivator. However, when he faced the Spirit Lord, he felt like he was facing a towering mountain. The pressure was so heavy that he could not breathe. "Venerable One, it's the true God's disciple, Muyu," Gue Han said in a panic. "The true God's disciple is only at the spirit severing stage. You're a body fusion stage cultivator. Is this how you work for me?" The Spirit Lord's voice did not have any change in emotion. However, Gue Han was already extremely afraid. "Your subordinate is incompetent. Please spare my life, Venerable One." Gue Han's body could not help but tremble. The The Spirit Lord snorted coldly. He did not seem to make any movements. Following that, Guehan cried out in pain. It was as if he was suffering from a heart-wrenching pain. His entire body was lifted up by an invisible hand and flopped in the air. His originally pale face suddenly flushed red. His eyes were about to pop out. A stream of black gas shot into Guehan's eyes. Countless images flashed past Guehan's eyes. It was as if it was rewinding, displaying everything that he had seen in the past few days. Azura Gue was killed. The 10,000-year-old dragon vine was taken away. Akatsuki was killed by the sun. How do you want me to spare your life? The Spirit Lord's voice still did not have any change in emotion. It was as if he was calmly stating a fact. Guehan was so frightened that he cannot speak. If it wasn't for the fact that we are lacking in manpower, I would definitely kill you, the Spirit Lord said. The invisible hand on Guehan's neck suddenly loosened. Only then did Guehan manage to keep his life. He hurriedly knelt down again and kowtowed to thank the Spirit Lord. A man behind him stood up and asked, "Venerable One, what should we do now?" Something happened to Akatsuki. Doesn't that mean we don't need to worry about Akatsuki's matter? Gue cherishes life. Go to the nearby village and find 9 newborns. We need newborns to replace Azura Gue. Ghost servants cannot be lacking. The Spirit Lord said. Yes. Gue cherishes life, took a step forward and disappeared from where he was. The Spirit Lord swept his gaze over the remaining people behind Guehan. His gaze suddenly landed on Gue Hongyu. He grabbed Gue Hongyu and pulled her in front of him. A disciple of a true god. You really have many tricks up your sleeve, the Spirit Lord said. Gue Hongyu looked at the Spirit Lord in horror. She did not understand why the Spirit Lord had grabbed her. At the bottom of Mass Burial Valley, Muyu carefully studied the inscriptions in the middle of the formation patterns. Those ancient inscriptions were the key to this formation. After Akatsuki broke free from this formation, the inscriptions were also destroyed. Many of the inscriptions even dimmed and disappeared. The complexity of the array that Feng Haochen laid down was not inferior to the 9th Heaven Sealing Devil array in Muyu's body. The amount of spirit energy used to engrave tens of thousands of lines was far beyond Muyu's imagination. Even if he had the inheritance of the Heavenly Array Tao, it was still very difficult for him to understand this formation. Muyu understood that his master's attainment in formations was actually higher than the Heavenly Array Tao. At least, the Heavenly Array Tao's inheritance did not have such a complicated formation. But fortunately, Muyu's talent had always been good. The spirit energy carvings of the formation were actually very similar to some simple formations in some places. And this formation only had a hole. As long as he understood the distribution of the formation patterns around the hole, he could roughly deduce it. Little Shuai was also giving advice. Although this little guy was a glutton, he loved to read. He had already flipped through Deadwood Daddy's Xian formation and learned quite a lot of formation techniques. Some of the formation patterns here can be understood using the mirror image formation. Little Shuai said. Muyu was very familiar with the mirror image formation. When he first entered the Withered Tree Valley, Deadwood Daddy used this mirror image formation to trap many self-cultivators. Muyu didn't know anything about formations back then, but he coincidentally found the clues left behind by Deadwood Daddy and successfully passed through the mirror image formation. The mirror image formation recorded in the Xian formation was a very advanced innate formation technique. The mirror image formation placed in the valley back then was just a simplified version. If Deadwood Daddy had made the real mirror image formation, Muyu wouldn't have been able to get out at all. The real mirror image formation could make people completely lose their direction. No matter which direction they went, they would return to the same place. The most terrible thing was that the boundaries were constantly moving, making it impossible to determine the exact location. If one attacked in the mirror image formation, they might even find that if they stabbed the sword above their head, the sword tip would pierce through their chest from the back. This formation technique was very advanced. It was invented by Deadwood Daddy himself. It was recorded in the Xian formation that no one had successfully walked out of his real mirror image formation. The Xian formation taught Mu Yu the most exquisite way to learn formations, which was to dismantle formations. Mu Yu flipped through Deadwood Daddy's Xian formation. He found that the Xian formation left behind by Deadwood Daddy was indeed ingenious. Mu Yu divided the location of the breach into 36 formation patterns. These 36 formations were actually recorded in detail in the Xian formation. He divided all the formations according to the guidance of the Xian formation. Finally, he changed the differences. After spending a day, he finally understood all the formation patterns and spirit power lines around the breach. Using spirit power to draw a formation was a difficult process. This was because this formation was too heaven-defying. It was a formation that could restrict the barrier between heaven and earth. There was no need to think about it to know how powerful it was. Even though Mu Yu was now at the spirit-severing stage, compared to the previous Jian Ying Chun Feng, he was still too insignificant. He had just drawn a spirit power line, and half of the spirit power in his body was sucked away. This formation consumed too much spirit power. It was far from what he could bear. If a formation technique consumed so much spirit power, then the formation base needed was even more difficult to estimate. There must be something strange about this formation base. I can't take it anymore. Little Handsome, quickly come and help me. I don't have the abnormal cultivation of Master. It's not enough to repair this formation. Mu Yu lay on a floating stone and said while panting, "The formation base of this formation is the power of nature. Of course, it's not something you can repair." Little Handsome said, "The power of nature. In a battle of formations, if the innate formation base's spirit power was exhausted, a truly powerful innate formation master could use the power of nature as the formation base. The power of nature meant that everything in the world could be used as the formation base. It was a very profound method that needed to be comprehended by oneself. Without anyone to teach Mu Yu, he could not meet the requirements. Then why didn't you say so earlier?" Mu Yu used his own spirit power to draw the formation. In the end, he was half dead tired. Then Little Handsome said these words, leaving him helpless. His master could easily use the power of nature to set up the formation. That was because his master's cultivation was already invincible. He did not know how to use the power of nature and could not reach the level where everything could be set up. Now, he felt that he was not even worth a finger in front of his master. "Stupid, this formation is originally maintained by the power of nature around it. What you have to do is to follow the flow of the spirit power of the formation and find the power of nature to make up for it. This way, you don't have to waste your own spirit power." Little Handsome said proudly, "The power of nature? I can also control the power of nature." Mu Yu suddenly became interested. If he could control the power of nature, then he could reach the level where everything could be set up. This also meant that he did not have to use a lot of innate formation base to set up a complicated formation. Although he now had the primal yin-yang and did not need to use the innate formation base to set up a teleportation formation, many large-scale fixed formations naturally could not use the primal yin-yang as the formation base. It was impossible for him to always guard the fixed formation and not leave. However, controlling the power of nature was too difficult. Even Zhuge Shaosheng could not do it. Mu Yu had always wanted to learn how to use the power of nature. However, the natural formation Heavenly Tao had told him that he had to comprehend it himself. So, he had not grasped the essence of it yet. Chapter 591. The power of nature is recorded in Old Dad's Xian formations. "You're not serious at all." Little Shuai snorted. He usually liked to flip through Xian formations casually. It could be said that he knew more about Xian formations than Mu Yu. The power of nature isn't completely recorded in Xian formations. It only mentioned a sentence or two, Mu Yu said. When Deadwood Daddy was recording his formations, he often felt that some things were too simple and there was no need to record them. So the entire book was filled with profound formations that people couldn't understand. He did mention the power of nature, but he didn't talk about how to guide the power of nature to set up a formation. On page 1967, line 3, paragraph 6, he said that everything can be set up, including people. Little Shuai was sometimes silly, but sometimes his memory was surprisingly good. It was mainly because he had a photographic memory, but Muyu didn't. He only had a very strong deduction ability. Muyu didn't really like reading books, because every book written by Deadwood's father was very thick. Just the book, Xian Formations, alone was 15 centimeters thick. It was half the size of a table, and it was surprisingly heavy. Although his memory wasn't bad, it didn't reach the level of photographic memory. At least, he couldn't clearly remember which page and which paragraph, but he remembered this sentence. So, everything can be set up. Master Lu also said this to me before. Not only Master Lu, Formation Heavenly Tao also mentioned it. Muyu said. He once received all the inheritance of Formation Heavenly Tao, but there were many things that he needed to comprehend on his own. Muyu never lacked the materials to set up formations, so he didn't care much about the power of nature and didn't delve into it. But today he found out that the formations his master set up actually used the power of nature. So he had no choice but to treat the power of nature properly. The key point of Deadwood Daddy's sentence is including people, Little Shuai said seriously. Including humans? Muyu frowned. Humans were also a part of nature? He seemed to have realized something in his heart. He immediately closed his eyes and released his spiritual energy in a regular pattern. He carefully observed the situation of the spiritual energy and was surprised to find that his spiritual energy seemed to have been deprived of something intangible. However, this thing did not weaken his spiritual energy at all. It was as if the thing that was taken away was superfluous. These incorporeal things were slowly being drawn out and integrated into the array formation, making it even more solid. Although it was insignificant, it still surprised Muyu. Was this the power of nature? Muyu used his hand to touch the floating stone beside him. He seriously sensed the changes in the stone and discovered that a part of the stone seemed to have been taken away. He could not figure it out, but it was definitely there. This array formation can turn everything that enters the array formation into the power of nature. The moment we entered, we became a part of the array formation's foundation. However, because the effect is minuscule, we can't sense it, Little Marshall said. We have also become the force of nature. Can an array formation be set up like this? Muyu nodded thoughtfully. He calculated the distribution of the array formation in his mind and discovered that not only the surrounding stones, but the entire chaotic burial valley and the surrounding flowers, trees, birds, and beasts, and even the terrifying destructive power in the barrier of heaven and earth had all become the foundation of the array formation. Such a bizarre array technique was truly unprecedented. The force of nature, indeed, needs to be comprehended by yourself. You can give it a try. This array formation is filled with the force of nature, so it will be much easier for you to learn the power of nature, Little Marshall said. Usually, Muyu always wanted to learn how to use the force of nature to set up arrays, but the force of nature was too illusory. It was very difficult for him to comprehend it. Now that he was in an array formation that used the force of nature as its foundation, it was indeed an opportunity for Muyu to comprehend the force of nature. Muyu began to comprehend the incorporeal power. That kind of thing was illusory yet real. As long as he could control it, he could deal with the situation in front of him. Nature was a kind of carefree, relaxed, and comfortable appearance. There was no need to deliberately disguise anything. Everything was how it should be. Everything in the world had its truest side, and the power displayed by that side was the force of nature. Muyu emptied his mind and fell into a state of lightness. Whether it was the spiritual energy around him, the broken stones, or the tyrannical, destructive power from the barrier of heaven and earth, they were all part of nature. He did not rely on his consciousness to control it. Instead, he allowed everything to move as he wished. The power to maintain this kind of movement came from themselves. This was what Muyu needed to comprehend. He needed to guide that power and use it for his own use. Little Marshall was bored to death at the side and began to eat a roasted chicken leg with a pill firestone. He directly threw the bones that were gnawed clean at the barrier of heaven and earth outside the gap in the array formation. The bones were directly turned into nothingness. It was easy and effective to deal with trash. Dragon Vine yawned, swung its tail, and began to sleep with its eyelids drooping. All of this seemed so pleasant. That invisible but substantial power was roaming around vigorously, flowing. So that's how it is. The black and white spiritual energy in Mu Yu's body continued to flow. The comfortable and free power in the spiritual energy began to surge happily. The force of nature around him also resonated with the spiritual energy in Mu Yu's body and began to be guided to his side by Mu Yu. The array pattern turned into the 8 trigrams and began to spin under Mu Yu's feet. He began to try to use this weak power as the base of the array and set up a simple Qin Yin sound scrambling array. He had just summoned a Qin Yin, but before the Qin Yin could leave his palm, it turned into nothingness with a soft Puqi sound. The force of nature that Mu Yu gathered could not provide enough power to maintain the Qin Yin sound scrambling array. He tried several array techniques in succession and realized that they could not achieve the desired effect. Strange. Where did the problem come from? Mu Yu was puzzled. Why was his master able to use the force of nature as the base of the array, but he could not even use the most basic array techniques? He began to ponder about the timing of the force of nature's effect. Unfortunately, the force of nature was always lacking a little bit, and he could not grasp that little bit of understanding. No, the force of nature is too mysterious. I know nothing about it. Even if I can feel its existence, I can't reasonably use it. Mu Yu shook his head. In fact, he only spent a quarter of an hour to discover the illusory force of nature. This was already very heaven-defying. It was just that Feng Haoqian's formation was too abstruse, and it was impossible to learn the most basic force of nature from the abstruse formation. If Feng Haoqian could personally demonstrate to Mu Yu a simple formation maintained by the force of nature, then he would understand where the balance between the force of nature and the formation was. Although Mu Yu could not control the force of nature, he at least understood a little bit of it. It could be considered a beginner. Little Shuai wagged his tail and said, "Anyway, this depends on your own understanding. If you can't fix this powerful array, you need to at least use your own array techniques to stop people from coming in from the barrier of heaven and earth. Set up a few powerful killing arrays outside to make them retreat." Mu Yu understood that this was the only way. However, although he did not have enough spiritual power to carve lines to fix this array pattern, he could use his own array pattern to stop the gap from widening. How about this? I might as well set up a mirror image array at the gap in the array. The next time some flesh-winged horned monster wants to come in from here, they will have to break through the mirror image array and teach them a lesson. Mu Yu thought for a moment. The mirror image array left a deep impression on him. This array could let people come in from anywhere and walk out from anywhere. The complete version of the mirror image array was very powerful. Mu Yu knew how to set it up. As long as he set the entrance of the mirror image array at the gap in front of him, then the next time he encountered a monster like Akatsuki who wanted to come in, it would barge into the mirror image array. No matter where it went, it would walk back to the gap and would not be able to take a step forward. You can set up a heaven and earth reversal killing array in the mirror image array. Lastly, use a pair of blossom rain needles to serve it, followed by a rolling thunder. Little Shuai suggested as he rubbed his fists. Why don't you use your lofty image to intimidate the enemy? Mu Yu laughed. That's a good idea. Little Shuai nodded excitedly. Mu Yu shrugged helplessly. Then, he added his powerful sword qi into the mirror image array. Little Shuai volunteered to be in charge of the dark sky falling thunder sword array. Considering that lightning was the nemesis of yellow spring corpse water, Mu Yu agreed. After setting it up, he added several layers of indestructible defensive formations behind the mirror image array. As long as the formation base was strong enough and the formation patterns were stable enough, there was no need to worry about it being broken by brute force. Mu Yu spent a lot of effort to set up this formation. His formation skills were far above Akatsuki's. Even Akatsuki would not be able to escape from this formation. Mu Yu finished setting everything up. He took one last look at the powerful formation left behind by his master before leaving Chaotic Burial Valley. Where are we going next? Dragonvine asked with half-opened eyes. To the Ghost Island, but we need to know how to get there first. Little Shuai said. This was a problem. Only Red Dragon, Duke, knew the location of the Ghost Island. We did not know. Since it is an island, it must be by the sea. Let's go to the sea and see if there is anything strange. We might even find traces of the people from the Gate of Hell and secretly follow them. Muyu said, but not long after Muyu left Chaotic Burial Valley, outside the formation at the bottom of Chaotic Burial Valley, a blazing light suddenly flashed across the boundless heaven and earth barrier. Then, a figure slowly appeared from the light. The heaven and earth barrier had a terrifying tearing force that could instantly destroy a person's body. But this person who suddenly appeared walked in the heaven and earth barrier as if he was taking a stroll. He flew in the heaven and earth barrier and seemed to have discovered something. He gradually approached the formation at the bottom of Chaotic Burial Valley. He used his hand to touch the formation patterns. The formation patterns gently flicked his hand away. He flew around the huge formation and saw the opening created by Akatsuki. He then walked in. Little Shuai's dark sky falling thunder sword. With a childish shout, Little Shuai's figure suddenly appeared. A blue heavenly sword with the power of thunder slashed down at the figure. But this person only stretched out a hand and grabbed the blue heavenly sword. Little Shuai's seemingly domineering blue heavenly sword was not worth mentioning in his hand. Jianing Chun Feng's sword spirit? Is Jianing Chun Feng nearby? The figure was extremely shocked. He walked around the entire formation. The formation set up by Mu Yu was useless against him. He easily passed through it. Yu Clan and Third Layer Palace. It seems like Third Layer Heaven is about to change owners. Jianing Chun Feng, you still lost in the end. Third Layer Heaven no longer belongs to you. Chapter 592. Muyu left Chaotic Burial Valley and returned to the academy. He asked Xiao Fei to get a topographic map of Moyun Mountain Range. In fact, the cultivator didn't draw the whole picture of the Moyun Mountain Range, especially the area by the sea. It was very vague. There were only a few rolling mountains and then the sea. There wasn't even a road sign or a small road. This map was the most detailed one that Xiao Fei found. The other maps did not even mark the seaside. Cultivators didn't like to gather at the seaside because they generally lived in the mountains. Moreover, the demonic beasts lived in the mountain forests. The demonic beasts' skin, bones, and demonic spirits were materials for making magical equipment. Therefore, the cultivators' area of activity was near the cities in the mountain forests. Muyu flew towards the east of Moyun Mountain Range. Muyu remembered that Duke Red Dragon said that the Ghost Island was in the eastern sea. The people from the Gate of Hell went to the Ghost Island. Muyu also wanted to go to the Ghost Island for Deadwood Daddy. Muyu, you're not lost, right? Xiao Shuai asked lazily on Muyu's shoulder. Muyu wandered around for a long time and looked at the map for a long time. He said uncertainly, I don't think so. Having no sense of direction was the shame of Muyu's life. His sense of direction was too bad. He often flew off the path. Even if he looked at the map, he would not be able to find the north. There was no choice. There was nothing to use when flying in the air. Moreover, he was not familiar with this area. He wanted to rely on the sun to determine the direction, but it was cloudy today. I think we should go east. Yes, this way. Muyu pointed in a direction and said, looks like we're lost again. Long Tongue said with certainty. Muyu muttered, strange. It was sunny yesterday. Why is the sun so shy today? It was funny. He grew up in Moyun Mountain Range, but there were many places in Moyun Mountain Range that he had never been to. Like other cultivators, he did not live near the sea. Didn't you use the Divine Soul wood to control Gui Hong Yu? Try to sense that piece of Divine Soul wood, said Xiao Shuai. That would require Gui Hong Yu to be within a certain range. If she's too far away, I won't be able to sense her. Muyu crossed a tall mountain and saw the horizon in the distance. The endless sea was rolling gently. He had actually found the sea. Look, I told you that my sense of direction has improved recently. Muyu puffed out his chest and said proudly. From afar, he could see some fishing villages below. He could see that some fishermen were still drying fishing nets in their yards. There were also a few fishing boats drifting on the coast. A few villagers were fixing the ropes. It was now evening, and the fishing boats were beginning to return. Do you think the people from the Gate of Hell have already set sail? Are they going by boat or flying? Xiao Shui asked curiously. They should be going by boat. I remember Duke Red Dragon saying that this ghost island can't be reached without special guidance. They need to sense the changes in the ocean currents to find them. They can't sense the changes in the ocean currents while flying in the sky. Muyu speculated. Then how do we know which current to follow? Long Ting asked. Muyu was also thinking about this problem. He had to follow the people from the Gate of Hell to reach the ghost island. That meant that the most important thing now was to find traces of the people from the Gate of Hell. Since the people from the Gate of Hell would definitely go by boat, then there would definitely be fishermen nearby who would lend them a boat. It should be robbing. Muyu could not imagine the people from the Gate of Hell would politely borrow boats from fishermen. Muyu specially landed outside the village to show his courtesy. He walked into the fishing village on foot. He found a fisherman and asked if there were any black-clothed people who came to rob boats recently. However, the answer he received was negative. There was nothing strange happening in this area. If there was, it could be that a strong wind blew down the lighthouse by the sea a while ago. There was a very tall lighthouse by the sea. This lighthouse was used to guide the fishermen who were delayed and returned late. Every night, someone would climb to the top of the lighthouse and burn the sebum of a Class 1 demon beast, the rabid shark. After the sebum was ignited, the light emitted by the rabid shark had a great penetrating power in the night. This light could be seen from 10 kilometers away. Of course, the lighthouse was not strange. However, they did not find any traces of the people from the Gate of Hell. This surprised Muyu. Could it be that the people from the Gate of Hell really flew directly to the Ghost Island? If we can't find the Japanese, how are we going to get to the Ghost Island? Little Shui asked. Let's go to the beach and look for them. If they went out to sea by boat, then they must have left some traces on the beach, Muyu said. Muyu searched the beach, but did not find any traces. He saw many fishermen gathered around and began to talk about recent anecdotes. Then he heard a middle-aged woman say loudly, "Everyone, watch the children closely. I heard that the children in the villages on the East Coast were kidnapped the day before yesterday." Really? Who did it? I don't know. I heard that it was a few soul reapers from the underworld. Anyway, a few people in the village died, the middle-aged woman said. Muyu frowned slightly. Soul reapers from the underworld? He listened for a while and found that the middle-aged woman mentioned a figure in black with smoke coming out of his body. He was immediately sure that it was the people from the Gate of Hell. It seemed that Muyu had found the wrong place. The people from the Gate of Hell did not stay in this place, but on another coast. He asked the middle-aged woman about the direction of the fishing village where the children went missing and rushed along the beach in the direction the middle-aged woman had pointed. Muyu flew for about 15 minutes. Suddenly, the aura of the divine soul wood on Gue Hongyu's body entered Muyu's mind. I finally found you. It wasn't easy. Muyu could sense that the divine soul wood was about 30 kilometers away. This meant that the people from the Gate of Hell had not left yet. He flew for a while longer and felt the unique cold aura of the people from the Gate of Hell in the darkness. He knew that he had made the right choice. The divine soul wood on Gue Hongyu's body was like a lamp in the darkness, guiding Muyu. He carefully approached the area. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Some kind of tentacle suddenly surged out of the darkness and wrapped around Muyu's waist. Muyu was shocked. His shadow sword immediately slashed at the tentacle, but the tentacle wasn't cut off. On the contrary, the shadow sword slashed through the tentacle as if it had hit a stream of water. "Don't go over there." A familiar voice sounded in Muyu's ears. Muyu was startled. Then, joy appeared on his face. Xiao Shui. Needless to say, Xiao Shui's water spirit had wrapped around Muyu's waist. Xiao Shui's water spirit pulled Muyu back. Muyu did not resist. He was dragged to Xiao Shui's side. "Don't go over there. The people from the Gate of Hell have set up a trap for you. Come with me," Xiao Shui said softly. Then, she brought Muyu in a certain direction. They stopped in front of an abandoned hut at the foot of a mountain. Under the moonlight, Muyu could clearly see that the hut was very dilapidated. It was pitch black inside and covered in dust. It looked like it would collapse at the slightest touch. However, Muyu frowned. He could clearly sense that the hut was not simple. There was a faint aura around it. Someone had set up a strange camouflage around the hut. It could prevent others from spying on it. If one did not walk in, it would be impossible to discover it. Xiao Shui turned around and smiled at Muyu. "We meet again." "Wow, big sister Xiao Shui has become prettier again." Little Handsome shamelessly dove into Xiao Shui's embrace. Xiao Shui stretched out her slender hand and rubbed Little Handsome's head. The current Xiao Shui was at the third layer of the spirit severing stage. She was wearing a yellow dress today. She looked clean and tidy, like a lotus flower in the water. She was still so calm. "Xiao Shui, why are you here?" Muyu also revealed a smile. He had not seen Xiao Shui for a long time. He did not expect to meet her again here. He wanted to hug Xiao Shui, but he saw Little Handsome acting as an eyesore. "We're going to Certain Island. What about you? Do you want to go with the people from a gate of hell?" Xiao Shui looked at Muyu. Her relationship with Muyu was very strange. Some things were hard to explain. "Yes, we're going to the Ghost Island." Muyu nodded. He was thinking that he must send Little Handsome and Long Tongue away one day. Xiao Shui knocked on the wooden door. Then the wooden door suddenly turned into a water screen. The entire house suddenly changed its appearance. It turned into a huge turtle shell. "That's not called the Ghost Island. That's our—" Before Xiao Shui could finish speaking, a terrifying spirit energy suddenly acted on Muyu and Xiao Shui. The two of them were directly pulled into the turtle shell. "Xiao Shui, I told you to go out and patrol. Why did you bring your little lover back?" White Ape Demon King's lazy voice sounded in Muyu's ears. Muyu was thrown into a corner. He was furious. "Old hairy monkey, are you crazy? Can't you be gentler? Weren't you summoned by the Threefold Palace?" Muyu, remember the old man, said that the Threefold Palace was gathering a lot of experts. White Ape Demon King was also going. All the monsters in the turtle shell looked at Muyu. There were a total of 10 unfriendly auras. Clearly, a human brat daring to speak to their great demon king like this was very rude. "Stinking brat, you have no respect for your elders. What is the Threefold Palace? You want to summon me as a fighter? Dream on." White Ape Demon King was sitting on a chair in the middle of the house. He was eating melon seeds. His legs were on the table, and his legs were shaking. He always had that arrogant and unruly look. Muyu felt that the way he shook his legs was very annoying. In addition to White Ape Demon King and Xiao Shui, there were 10 other monsters in the house. 4 of them were at the body integration stage, and 6 were at the severed soul stage. Muyu also knew one of them. It was the little prince of the monster race, Long Xingyun. Long Xingyun was at the 9th heavenly layer of the doppelganger realm. When he saw Muyu, he wasn't very happy because he liked Xiao Shui. "Why are you all hiding in your turtle shells like cowards?" Muyu looked around and couldn't help but ask. Muyu didn't panic. Although this old hairy monkey was always very annoying, at least he didn't have any bad intentions. "What coward? Did a coward provoke you? Brat, are you courting death?" A white-skinned old man next to White Ape Demon King angrily rebuked. Muyu looked at the old man. This old man's cultivation was at the body integration stage, but he looked a little familiar. "Old turtle, don't be angry. Muyu was just joking." Xiao Shui quickly went over to comfort Muyu. At the same time, she explained to Muyu, "Muyu, we are all in his shell. This time, we need to rely on him to go to the Sacred Island." "Sacred Island? Where is that?" Chapter 593. Stupid Turtle Your Sister. My name is Gue Dingtian. Old Turtle was so angry that his 2 whiskers were sticking up. He obviously remembered Muyu. When they were in the 2nd layer of heaven, he and Boss Lu were annoyed by Muyu for a long time. Whenever they met, he would greet them with a turtle shell and a walking stick, and then a large part of the sea would evaporate. That year, the sea level of the 2nd layer of heaven dropped by 1 centimeter. Gue Dingtian. Muyu touched his nose. The name sounded a little strange. When Muyu was trapped in the 2nd layer of heaven, He wanted to use the demon race's teleportation array to return to the third layer of heaven. Unfortunately, he met two stubborn guardians on the demon island who refused to let him go. They forcibly delayed him for a year. Those two were Boss Lou and Old Turtle. "Kid, why are you here?" Old Lou asked in a deep voice. White Ape Demon King asked lazily, "Why? Do you know each other?" "Old ancestor, this kid wanted to return to the third layer of heaven from the second layer of heaven, but we refused," Boss Lou replied respectfully. Muyu was still angry when he thought of this. These two unreliable guys had dealt with him for half a year before telling him that he could return to the third layer of heaven through the spiritual energy eye. At that time, these two guys were still demon souls guarding the demon island. He didn't expect that they would come to the third layer of heaven alive and kicking. White Ape Demon King was also quite dissatisfied with Muyu's impudence. "Kid, are you and those bastards from the Gate of Hell having ideas about our sacred island?" "Sacred island? Isn't it called Ghost Island?" Muyu asked. "Ghost my ass. That island is the sacred island of our demon race." White Ape Demon King scolded unceremoniously. Muyu was too lazy to pay attention to the White Ape Demon King. She walked to the side, pulled a chair, and sat down. She acted as if she was familiar with this place. But Old Turtle was not happy. He said fiercely, "Brat, how dare you talk to our old ancestor? Damn it, I was the one who saved your old ancestor. Otherwise, that old hairy monkey would have been captured by the people of the Gate of Hell a long time ago." Muyu said bluntly, "Don't talk nonsense. How dare you insult our old ancestor? You're courting death." Old Turtle slammed the table and stood up. "All right, stop arguing. That bastard is an eyesore, but it's all thanks to him." The White Ape Demon King didn't feel that there was anything shameful about it. Someone had saved him, so there was nothing to deny. Old Turtle and Boss Deer looked at each other. Although the two of them were rescued by the White Ape Demon King using a secret technique and were reborn with the help of demonic beasts, they didn't know about this matter. Muyu continued, "You said that the people from the Gate of Hell are going to your island? If it's yours, why did you only think of looking for it now?" "Because..." The White Ape Demon King's face turned red. He scolded, "It's none of your business." He remembered that Duke Crimson Dragon said that the Ghost Island was a remnant of the war between humans and demons. If that was the case, then it shouldn't be a pure demon's possession. "I know, you don't know anything about that place either, right?" Muyu suddenly found it funny. Demon Island was clearly the territory of the people from the Gate of Hell, but a dignified Demon King actually knew nothing about his own territory. Xiao Shui said, "The Sacred Island is the territory of the Sea Demon King Yujiang. He is also one of our 10 great demon kings. However, his territory is in the sea. Even in the past, we wouldn't be able to find it without special guidance. If we want to reach the sacred island of the Sea Demon King Yujiang, we must take a boat and rely on special guidance." The 10 demon kings each had their own way of doing things. They would only unite in a matter of life and death. Just like Desert Eagle Demon King's Desert Eagle Imperial City, other demons couldn't break in. White Ape Demon King was originally the overlord of the second layer of heaven, while Sea Demon King Yujiang was the overlord of Maoyun Mountain Range. In fact, this wasn't hard to understand. Just like the 8 sects, they didn't dare to say that they could see through other sections. Demon kings were naturally the same. According to Qiao Shui's introduction, Sea Demon King Yujiang's island was very mysterious. His island couldn't be found without a boat, even if you flew over his island from the sky. Usually, if the demon kings wanted to visit each other, they would need a middleman. But the demon race was almost extinct several thousand years ago, so the middleman was long gone. "Can't we ask the demon beasts in the sea?" Muyu asked. "You think we haven't tried?" Unfortunately, the demon beasts in the sea are too stupid. None of them know the way. Those that know the way are usually in the depths of the sea. It's very troublesome to find them. The White Ape Demon King angrily scolded. It had been several thousand years, and no sea demon had lived that long. Naturally, they wouldn't know. "How much do you know about the Gate of Hell's plan?" Muyu asked. "How much do you know? Do you know how to get his 6th brother, Yu Zhang's island?" The White Ape Demon King asked. Muyu looked at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui did say that the people from the Gate of Hell had deliberately set a trap for him. He pondered for a long time. At that time, the tracker Gei Hung Yu's divine soul would came here, which meant that the people from the Gate of Hell must have found out that he was controlling Gue Hong Yu. Fortunately, Xiao Shui stopped him in time, otherwise he wouldn't know what to do. Old Hairy Monkey, you and Yu Jiang are both demon kings. Haven't you been to his place before? How can you forget the way to his place? Muyi said, I haven't been there before. I'm seasick. The White Ape Demon King said simply, not feeling ashamed at all. Seasick? Then why are you here this time? Muyu found it a little funny. As a demon king, this guy actually had seasickness. Then, he remembered that he had a fear of heights in the past. Now, he still had a poor sense of direction. No one was perfect. Only people with shortcomings could achieve great things, right? Little Turtle said that I wouldn't get seasick in his turtle shell, so I came. The White Ape Demon King glanced at Old Turtle. Patriarch, don't worry. I guarantee with my life that there won't be any turbulence. Old Turtle said respectfully. His expression was so serious that even Muyu found it a little funny. The White Ape Demon King glanced at Muyu and suddenly frowned. He stared at Muyu maliciously. Kid, why do you have the aura of Desert Eagle's companion demon servant, Ghost Falcon? What? Desert Eagle Demon King? Old Turtle and the others' expressions changed slightly as they all stared at Muyu. Although the Demon Kings did things their own way, in the hearts of the demons, the 10 great Demon Kings were sacred and inviolable. The Demon King's authority was effective on all demons. Is there something wrong with your nose? Only then did Muyu remember that he seemed to have taken the Ghost Falcon back in Desert Eagle Royal City. However, he didn't plan to say it out loud. Unfortunately, Muyu still didn't know what the Ghost Falcon was for. It seemed to be a piece of trash. Screech. A strange cry came from Muyu's universe and sleeve. It was the sound of the Ghost Falcon that Muyu had stolen from Tian Bushi and the demons back in Desert Eagle Royal City. Muyu was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This idiot had been trapped in the blood crystal all this time. He didn't know how to release him, so he had let the Ghost Falcon fend for itself. He had almost forgotten about this guy. He didn't expect it to come out now and cause trouble for him. He knew that there was no point in hiding it now. He simply took out the blood crystal and threw the Ghost Falcon at the White Ape Demon King. He couldn't keep it anyway. Besides, this thing was useless. You were the one who stole it. Long Xingyin looked at the blood crystal in the White Ape Demon King's hand, then looked at Muyu in shock and anger. Yes, I stole it. What about it? Muyu didn't want to deny it at all. At the time, the demons and the people from Stargate were clearly stronger than Muyu, who was in the out-of-body stage. But who would have thought that the one who reaped the benefits would be Muyu, who had the lowest cultivation? The White Ape Demon King coldly snorted and said, Xingyin, at that time, you brought the elites of your clan and rushed over. You told me that a boy with an unfathomable cultivation base stole the Ghost Falcon. Don't tell me that the so-called unfathomable cultivation base is this guy. At the time, it was true. Long Xingyin was so angry that the roots of his teeth itched. He glared at Muyu, but Muyu ignored him, his expression still as indifferent as ever. The White Ape Demon King knocked on the blood crystal. The Ghost Falcon suddenly screeched again, as if communicating with the White Ape Demon King. The White Ape Demon King's face was suddenly filled with shock, which then turned serious. The White Ape Demon King's figure flashed, and he grabbed Muyu by the collar. Holy shit! Old Hairy Monkey, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Muyu was furious. This old hairy monkey was addicted to bullying him. You know where Hai Dongxing is sealed, and you've seen it before? The White Ape Demon King stared coldly at Muyu. What? You know where the Sand Eagle Demon King is sealed? All the demons stood up, their faces fierce. Muyu felt like he was in a real mess. The Ghost Falcon was a damn beast. Muyu usually forgot about its existence. Who would have thought that it would snitch to the old hairy monkey at a time like this? Besides, the Sand Eagle Demon King's heart had been taken by Xiangnan. Even if they could find where the Sand Eagle Demon King was sealed, there was no way they could let him come here. So what if I know? You can't save him. Muyu glared at the white ape demon king. "Where is it?" the white ape demon king asked in a low voice. "Doesn't that little beast know?" Muyu was thinking about teaching the ghost falcon a lesson. Every time he took it out, the ghost falcon would angrily peck him. It didn't provide him with any information. Now, it had directly reported him. He wanted to skin the ghost falcon alive. It only sensed Hai Dongqing's aura, but it doesn't know the exact location. "You must tell me the location," the white ape demon king said firmly. "What if I don't tell you?" The thing Muyu hated the most was being threatened. Crazy. He was always acting like an idiot. It was so annoying. "Then The white ape demon king's face was full of murderous intent. All the demons were staring at Muyu. As long as the white ape demon king gave the order, they would pounce on Muyu and capture him on the spot. "Kill me?" Muyu was not afraid that the white ape demon king would make a move on him. He was the only one who knew where Hai Dongqing was sealed. Now he had the upper hand. The white ape demon king suddenly changed the topic and said, "If you don't tell me, then you can forget about being my son-in-law." All the demons were stunned for a moment. They thought that the white ape demon king was going to say something shocking that would make Muyu beg for death and turn his ashes into potted fertilizer. However, it turned out that this was the first thing that came out of his mouth. "F***CK. I don't care if you don't want me." Muyu was angered by this shameless old bastard. Every day, he shamelessly wanted to be his father-in-law. He didn't know what was wrong with him. The white ape demon king turned to Xiao Shui and said, "Daughter, your little lover is so heartless. I don't like him either. Why don't I just slap him to death?" Hearing this, Muyu immediately said, "No, Xiao Shui, that's not what I meant. Even if I were to be with you, it wouldn't have anything to do with this old monkey." Muyu was speechless. Muyu didn't think that Xiao Shui would do such a thing. Muyu immediately turned to Xiao Shui and said, "That's not what I meant. So you want to marry me?" Xiao Shui's face turned red. That's not what I meant. What I meant was..." Muyu was a little embarrassed. "You mean that you don't want to marry Xiao Shui? It seems that you still have some self-awareness. You know that you're not worthy of being my son-in-law." The white ape demon king lazily raised his eyelids. "F***CK. Can't you be less narcissistic? You old monster, where did you get the confidence to think that I'd be your son-in-law?" Muyu felt that the more he tried to explain, the more confused he became. He usually didn't lose when arguing with others, but when facing a 1,000-year-old monster, he was still a little lacking, not to mention that it involved Xiao Shui. "Uncle Ape, don't make things difficult for him. I have nothing to do with him. If you force him like this, he won't say anything." Xiao Shui was already used to the white ape demon king's daily teasing, but even so, she still blushed slightly. "Are you going to let go or not? Are you crazy? Either kill me or let go of me. Don't pull my clothes for no reason." Muyu was really impatient with the white ape demon king. This shameless old monster deserved a beating. The white ape demon king fiercely let go and asked, "Where is the gerfalcon? Are you looking for Yu Jiang or the gerfalcon?" Muyu tidied up her clothes. Then, she wondered why the names gerfalcon and Yu Jiang were so strange. The word Jiang clearly meant territory, but it was the demon king of the sea. Gerfalcon, on the other hand, was the demon king of the desert. It was a complete reversal. "I want to find both of them. Do you understand?" The white ape demon king said solemnly. Muyu glanced at the hostile demons around him. He would not be so stupid as to reveal the location of the Sand Eagle Demon King, Hai Dongqing's seal. This was a trump card, and he couldn't use it casually. "Then when we find Yu Jiang, I'll personally take you to find the gerfalcon," Muyu said leisurely. In fact, he also needed to borrow the power of the white ape demon king to deal with the people of Ghoul's Gate. This time, he heard that the protector of Ghoul's Gate, the Ghost Lord, had come. With the Ghost Lord's cultivation, perhaps only the white ape demon king could firmly suppress him. The white ape demon king snorted coldly. "Fine, I'll believe you for now. If you play any tricks, you can forget about being my son-in-law for the rest of your life." F***CK. Shameless people are invincible. Chapter 594. Muyu's face was full of black lines. He forcibly suppressed the impulse to attack the White Ape Demon King. When he had the strength in the future, he would teach this shameless guy a lesson. By the way, old hairy monkey, do you know a monster called Akatsuki? It seems to come from another world. The last time the people from the Gate of Hell came here to pick it up, it looked very similar to the people of your demon race. Muyu asked. The White Ape Demon King was an old monster who had lived for thousands of years, so he should know something. What? You said the Akatsuki came to the third layer of heaven? The White Ape Demon King's face suddenly changed. When the White Ape Demon King heard the name Akatsuki, his face changed greatly. This was something Muyu did not expect. Looking at the White Ape Demon King's expression, it seemed that he was very afraid of Akatsuki. However, the White Ape Demon King had always been fearless. Why would he have such a reaction when he heard the name Akatsuki? You have seen the Akatsuki? The White Ape Demon King asked seriously. Yes, but that guy's Yellow Springs corpse water was taken care of by us. Then, he was burned to death by the sun. Muyu still felt rather speechless. She had spent so many years at the bottom of Mass Burial Valley to corrode out the great array laid down by Sword Shadow and Dust Wind. Then, she had snuck in through a small hole. In the end, before she could even cause any trouble, she had been dealt with by the sun. The White Ape Demon King shook his head. The Akatsuki won't die so easily. Tell me the details of the scene at that time. Muyu hesitated for a moment. She saw that the White Ape Demon King's expression didn't seem to be joking. So, she hesitated for a moment. Then, she thought that there was nothing to hide about this matter. So, she told the White Ape Demon King everything that had happened at that time, including the strange things that had happened to the villagers, the wooden man, the corpse water of the Yellow Spring in the chaotic burial valley, and the disappearance of the dead people in the coffins. What kind of monster is the Akatsuki? It can transform into a human. Is it a demon? Muyu asked. Akatsuki isn't one of us demons, nor is she a third firmament or second firmament creature. You don't need to know what she is for now. In short, we must be cautious about this matter. You are lucky that Akatsuki is still recovering. Otherwise, you will become one of its members in the Yellow Springs corpse water. The White Ape Demon King said with a frown. But it has already exploded in the sun. Muyu shrugged. Who would have thought that such a powerful flesh-winged horn monster would have a phobia of sunlight? The sun killed Akatsuki because Akatsuki had not adapted to the environment of the third heaven. It will revive again. No, I have to go back and get to the bottom of this. White Ape Demon King glanced at the other Demon Clan members and instructed, when I'm not around, you guys will follow Gue Dingtian and Lu Xiangshan's orders. Do you hear me? Yes. All the demonic beasts replied respectfully. Muyu was stunned. I only mentioned Akatsuki and you want to leave? Isn't that too irresponsible? What if I'm lying? Akatsuki's matter is not a joke. If you haven't seen it with your own eyes, it is impossible for you to be familiar with so many details at your age. Besides, Akatsuki's matter is not a trivial matter. Whether this matter is true or not, I have to go to the Mass Burial Valley to verify it. White Ape Demon King glanced at Muyu one last time. Without explaining anything, he left the turtle shell and disappeared. F*CK. Without your ghost venerable in the Gate of Hell, how are we going to deal with it? Muyu chased after him and shouted, but White Ape Demon King had already merged into the vast night. He walked back gloomily and glanced at the demonic beasts who were still hostile to him. Too lazy to say anything, he pulled a chair to the corner and sat down. Originally, he thought that with the presence of White Ape Demon King on this trip to the Demon Island, at least he didn't have to worry about the Ghost Venerable. However, White Ape Demon King was neurotic and left as soon as he heard the name Akatsuki. It was hard to say whether he could stop the plan of the Gate of Hell. Muyu went to the Demon Island to find a way to repair Deadwood Daddy's soul injury. Old Tree Leader said that the souls on the Demon Island could nourish the soul of humans. The people of the Gate of Hell went to the Demon Island not only for the thousands of demonic and human souls, but also for the Siren King Yujiang. But what did this have to do with him? Anyway, he just wanted to do something good. Muyu, you rest here for a while. I still have to go out and confirm the safety of the surroundings. At the same time, I will also monitor the movements of the Hellgate's people. Xiao Shui passed Little Handsome to Mu Yu and smiled. Why are there so many men here? Do they need a girl like you to patrol? Mu Yu frowned. Xiao Shui raised the water spirit in her hand and said, "The sea is my battlefield. Have you forgotten?" She could control water. This was the sea. If there was any movement of the people of the Gate of Hell, she could clearly know. I'll go with you. Mu Yu stood up. He didn't want to stay with a group of demonic beasts. Don't go first. If you need to go with us, we have to confirm something. Boss Lu said. Mu Yu snorted and sat down again. Xiao Shui held Mu Yu's hand and whispered, "Don't worry. They won't make things difficult for you." Mu Yu nodded. Xiao Shui's hand was very warm, making his gloomy heart feel a little better. He grinned and said, "Be careful." Xiao Shui left, but Long Xingyun's gaze was fixed on Mu Yu. Xiao Shui was holding Mu Yu's hand just now. Normally, even a noble prince like him wouldn't be able to touch Xiao Shui's hand. But this human brat actually dared to touch his goddess hand. His face was so twisted that it was about to burst. "Brat, do you want to follow us to the Holy Island?" Old Tortoise asked while twirling his beard. "I'm not interested in your sea goblin king. I'm only interested in the people of the Gate of Hell." Mu Yu said helplessly. Old Tortoise and Boss Lu looked at each other. They had a deep impression of Mu Yu. At that time, Mu Yu was only a small, nascent soul stage cultivator. They were pestered by Mu Yu for half a year before Old Tortoise told him that he could go back through another spirit chi well. But at that time, they didn't know that Mu Yu had saved White Ape Demon King. Now that they knew, they had a higher opinion of Mu Yu. When they were in the second layer of heaven, they were refined into demon souls to protect the second layer of Heaven's Demon Island. That island was where the spirit chi well was located. It was an important place for demons to travel between the second and third layers of heaven. It was different from the Demon Island here. Old Tortoise and Boss Lu were two old antiques. They knew a lot about the past, so White Ape Demon King thought of a way to bring them out of the second layer of heaven. "Then do you know how to get to the Holy Island?" Boss Lu asked. Mu Yu shook his head. Perhaps only Red Dragon Duke knew how to get to the Demon Island. But Red Dragon Duke disappeared after the Gue Xianyue incident. He should be in the hands of the people of the Gate of Hell now. Then there's no use for you to follow us. You'll only drag us down. Long Xingyun sneered. Mu Yu looked at Long Xingyun impatiently. What? Then what's your use? Are you going to order us around and talk? How dare you talk to me like that? Long Xingyun said angrily. Is there something wrong with your head? I'm not even afraid of an old hairy monkey. Why would I be afraid of a bastard like you? Who do you think you are? Mu Yu didn't like this self-righteous little prince of the demon clan. Just because he was the descendant of the Azure Dragon Demon King, his tail was about to reach the sky. Back then, he was easily defeated by Shiman Wuji's lullaby. He really didn't know where his sense of superiority came from. Kid, he's not my grandson. He's Green Dragon Old Ancestor's grandson. Old Tortoise kindly reminded. Mu Yu scratched his head. Seeing Old Tortoise being so serious, he realized that he shouldn't use animals to scold people in the future. Cut the crap. I won't allow a human to join us. Humans are too weak and selfish. When the time comes, we won't even know if they run away and betray us. Long Xingyan looked at Mu Yu provocatively. Mu Yu didn't want to waste time and directly walked out. He couldn't be bothered with the demons. He didn't plan to rely on them in the first place. But Long Xingyun suddenly stopped him and said arrogantly, "Did I say you could leave?" "Scram," Mu Yu said calmly. "Tell me the whereabouts of Sand Eagle Demon King and swear never to appear in front of Xiao Shui again. Then I'll let you go." Long Xingyun narrowed his eyes and said. Long Xingyun had always liked Xiao Shui, but Xiao Shui had always been indifferent to him. Especially after returning from the second heaven, she missed Mu Yu even more. Usually, the White Ape Demon King liked to tease Xiao Shui and Mu Yu. Although the White Ape Demon King was always rude to Mu Yu, Long Xingyun knew that because Mu Yu had saved the White Ape Demon King, the White Ape Demon King still acknowledged Mu Yu in his heart. As the little prince of the shifters, He couldn't get the girl he liked or the white ape demon king's approval. He was so frustrated that he wanted to find trouble with Muyu for a long time. What if I don't agree? Muyu frowned. This is my territory. You don't have a choice. Long Xingyun's nine sky, separated soul, stage, aura suddenly spread out and poured onto Muyu, trying to force Muyu to obey. However, Muyu was unmoved. Long Xingyun's pressure didn't affect him at all. He looked at Long Xingyun indifferently and then glanced at the other shifters around. He found that other than Boss Lu and Old Turtle, the other shifters were looking at him with ridicule. Old Turtle said, "Xingyun, don't be rude. He is the savior of the White Ape Demon King. Since we owe him, we can't treat him rudely." Long Xingyun showed a fake smile and said, "Old Turtle, I'm thinking for the shifters. You two don't belong to the third heaven, so it's better if you don't interfere with my business." Although the White Ape Demon King told everyone to listen to Boss Lu and Old Turtle before he left, how could the arrogant Long Xingyun care about these two people? "You," Old Turtle said angrily. However, Boss Lu stopped Old Turtle and shook his head silently. Long Xingyun's status in the shifters was very noble. They weren't shifters in the first place, so no matter how high their seniority was, they couldn't compare to a little prince. Besides, this was Long Xingyun's private matter. Offending him wouldn't do them any good. "What? You dare to be arrogant when a White Ape Demon King isn't here? Or is it because you have the support of these people?" Muyu showed a playful smile. He wasn't afraid of trouble. Although trouble often came to him, he was the best at solving it. Chapter 595. The Green Dragon Monster King had many children and grandchildren. He had lived for tens of thousands of years, so he had countless descendants. However, his descendants weren't immortal, nor were they pure dragons. So, in order to obtain pure dragons, he had to keep reproducing. There were very few dragons in this world. In order to pass down his family's legacy, the Green Dragon Monster King mated with other types of monsters, but none of his descendants were able to inherit the dragon's body. Long Xingyun's father was a flood dragon, and his mother was a spirit-gathering python. He had the body of a dragon python, but his true dragon bloodline was as high as 90%. He was very close to a true dragon. In addition, he was very talented in cultivation, so he was very favored by the Green Dragon Monster King. He was usually a tyrant among the monsters, and no one dared to go against his will. Other than Xiao Shui, he looked down on the other humans. Even when he accidentally lost to Shiman Wuji, he thought it was because he was careless. If they really fought, he didn't think he would lose to any human youth. However, because Muyu had saved the White Ape Demon King and had an unclear relationship with the demon race's little princess, Xiao Shui, Muyu's reputation among the demon race was very resounding. Muyu didn't know this, but Long Xingyun was very unhappy, especially since the White Ape Monster King often compared Muyu to the other monsters. So Long Xingyun was looking for a chance to prove himself. Muyu had always been sitting at home, waiting for the pot to fall on his head. He did not know that Long Xingyun had all kinds of emotions when he attacked him, but he knew that he did not like being threatened. The moment Long Xingyun attacked, he disappeared and appeared behind Long Xingyun. His hand was wrapped in spiritual energy as he slashed down on Long Xingyun's back. Bang! Long Xingyun reacted quickly. When he sensed Muyu's disappearance, illusory dragon scales appeared on his back. He faced Muyu's palm and put some distance between him and Muyu. So fast, Long Xingyun was surprised. Muyu was only at the 7th level of the Split Soul Realm, while Long Xingyun was at the 9th level of the Split Soul Realm. However, their first fight seemed to be on par. Neither of them had the upper hand. Muyu was also very surprised. The dragon scales that appeared on Long Xingyun's body were very strong. They were harder than Muyu expected. It was strange that his attack could not break through the dragon scales. But in front of me, it's useless no matter how fast you are. Long Xingyun yelled. His two thick arms were suddenly covered with layers of dark dragon scales. His hands turned into dragon claws that glowed with black light. His two dragon claws clashed with each other, creating sparks. They were like indestructible black iron. They even created ripples in the air as if they were going to tear the void apart. Long Xingyun had already closed in. His two dragon claws were powerful and domineering. They left afterimages in the air as they attacked Mu Yu's vitals. Every attack was fatal. Mu Yu's body would probably be torn apart by those terrifying dragon claws. 8 trigrams appeared under Mu Yu's feet. Countless ripples appeared in the air around him. Then, he fearlessly faced Long Xingyun head-on. When faced with those terrifying dragon claws, Mu Yu directly pulled out the shadow clone sword from the ripples in the air. Violent sword chi shot out. The sword's shadow glowed with a cold light and slashed at the dragon claws. Ding! The pair of dragon claws were extremely tough, comparable to a divine weapon. Mu Yu's surging sword energy was caught in his hands, and he actually tore it apart with brute force. Long Xingyun was not afraid of Mu Yu's sword chi at all. Those dragon claws had increased his strength by several levels. Long Xingyun's talent was not just for show. He was also in the 9th level of the divinity branching stage. Human self-cultivators might not be able to do anything to his dragon claws. They might even be torn apart by him. He did have the right to be proud. However, Mu Yu did not use his full strength. He was just testing Long Xingyun's strength. The destruction of the sword chi did not mean anything. Long Xingyun's speed was not slower than Mu Yu's. Even if Mu Yu could use the Big Dipper constellation formation to escape in time, Long Xingyun would still catch up with him. The dragon claws were filled with murderous intent. He wanted to tear Mu Yu in half. The two figures intertwined in Old Turtle's shell, creating a series of afterimages. Luckily, Old Turtle's shell was very strong, and he was in the form synthesis stage. Therefore, the fight between Long Xingyun and Mu Yu did not leave any marks on his shell. The tortoise shell had a hidden mechanism. It looked like a dilapidated house from the outside, but it was very spacious on the inside, especially when Long Xingyun and Mu Yu were fighting. The tortoise shell suddenly became dozens of meters tall. They had moved everything away, leaving only an empty space for the two of them to use their skills. At this moment, Long Xingyun realized that his dragon claws were powerful, but they could not take down Mu Yu. His face darkened. His aura suddenly surged. Then his body emitted a dazzling black light. He gathered all the spiritual energy in his body on his arm. Then, a majestic aura blasted toward Mu Yu. However, a cold light flashed in Mu Yu's eyes. The black and white chi vanished in an instant. The runes of the formation surged once more. Mu Yu's hands formed a complicated seal. Next, ripples appeared in front of him. His entire person actually became somewhat illusory. Long Xingyun's terrifying attack was in front of Mu Yu in the blink of an eye. It was getting closer and closer to Mu Yu. This time, Mu Yu did not choose to dodge. He just watched calmly as Long Xingyun swung his powerful attack at him. The nearby demons could clearly see that Mu Yu had been locked down by Long Xingyun's attack. There was no way for him to escape. They could even see the scene of Mu Yu being hit by the claw and being torn apart. However, Long Xingyun's attack kept getting closer to Mu Yu. It was just a little bit off. The closer it got, the more it could not hit Mu Yu's body. It was so close, but it was like there was a chasm between them that could not be crossed. The formation was so close, yet world apart. It could change the distance around the user. It could wrap the enemy's attack in a very small area in front of the user. It looked like it was within reach, but it could not be touched. Relying on this powerful formation, Mu Yu gradually weakened Long Xingyun's overbearing attack until it was completely obliterated. Then he jumped and kicked. It went through the formation and landed on Long Xingyun's chest, sending him flying. All the demons were shocked. In their opinion, Long Xingyun, who was at the 9th heaven of spirit severing stage, was much stronger than Mu Yu in terms of cultivation and aura. However, Mu Yu managed to send Long Xingyun flying with a nimble formation. Long Xingyun quickly stabilized his body in the air. His face was very dark. He did not expect that his sure kill attack would not work in front of Mu Yu, especially when he was kicked away by Mu Yu in front of so many demons. He felt that his dignity had been insulted. "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so good." Long Xingyun's face was as cold as ice. His body trembled. His shirt suddenly fell apart, revealing his muscular chest. What the F asterisk CK? If you want to fight, just fight. Why are you taking off your clothes when you don't like it? Little Handsome scolded. However, Long Xingyan suddenly shot up into the sky. His body straightened. Then, all the bones and joints in his body began to move, as if they were being melted and reforged. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a majestic black dragon. His powerful dragon aura instantly invaded the entire tortoise shell. A sacred and majestic aura enveloped everyone. Strictly speaking, this was not a black dragon. It was a dragon python. Although it had the body of a dragon, its head was that of a ferocious python. Other than the two small horns on its head, its entire head was that of a python. In addition, there were 4 dragon claws under its abdomen. It did not look like a fish out of water. After Long Xingyan transformed into his true form, all the demons were intimidated by his aura, even though it was not a real dragon. They all took a few steps back and looked at him in awe. Dragons were a very powerful existence. They were the faith of the demons. The Green Dragon Demon King was the leader of the 10 Demon Kings. His majesty could make all the demons tremble from the bottom of their hearts. As the descendant of the Green Dragon Demon King, Long Xingyan's noble true dragon bloodline had reached 90%. No one dared to look at him directly. Long Xingyan opened his bloody mouth. A black dragon's breath shot out from his mouth. It rushed toward Mu Yu with the sound of wind and thunder. Long Xingyan's dragon's breath had reached the level of a combination realm attack. It was as fast as lightning. It tore through the void and arrived above Mu Yu's head in an instant. Mu Yu knew that so close, yet worlds apart, could not block such a terrifying dragon's breath. His feet flashed, and he teleported away. However, Long Xingyan had already locked onto Mu Yu's aura. As soon as Mu Yu appeared, the dragon's breath followed him like a shadow. Mu Yu seemed to be toying with Long Xingyan. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. The 5th style of the 9-traction heavenly sword, falling dragons roar to the sky. Materialization, illusory, solid. Mu Yu grasped the air and pulled out the shadow clone sword. It instantly turned into thousands of sword shadows. All the sword shadows gathered in the air and turned into an azure dragon made of sword chi. It roared into the sky. The huge dragon head of the sword shadow swallowed Long Xingyan's black dragon's breath. The biting cold sword chi instantly destroyed the dragon's breath. Mu Yu's dragon-shaped sword shadow did not disappear. Instead, it circled around Mu Yu. It was also emitting a domineering dragon's aura. What? A dragon made of sword intent? All the demons were shocked by Mu Yu's domineering sword chi. They did not expect Mu Yu to use his sword intent to create a majestic azure dragon. This was clearly a challenge to Long Xingyan. One had to know that Long Xingyan was not a dragon at all. However, Mu Yu's sword intent had turned into a dragon of the Array faction. Long Xingyan's eyes were about to spit fire. He had always been proud of his 90% true dragon bloodline. However, his only regret was that he did not have a complete dragon head. Now, Mu Yu had used his sword intent to create a dragon to fight him. This was a blatant insult to him. Looks like you're not a purebred dragon. Mu Yu chuckled. He just wanted to provoke this guy. He did not want him to think that he was superior because he was the descendant of the Azure Dragon Demon King. Chapter 596. Long Xingyan roared and opened his mouth wide. A violent breath came out of his mouth again. 5 real dragon shadows appeared in the breath. They intertwined with each other and rushed towards Mu Yu with an unstoppable force. These 5 dragon phantoms were real dragons, and their auras were quite overbearing. Even Mu Yu didn't dare to underestimate the aura that swept over. Although Long Xingyan was defeated by Shimin Shaochai's lullaby in the past, that was because Long Xingyan was still inexperienced. This was his true strength. However, Mu Yu's sword will control his Azure Dragon directly. Powerful and overbearing sword chi shot out in all directions, instantly crushing the 5 dragon breaths. However, the dragon formed by his sword mind was also turned into nothing. Long Xingyun's breath was indeed powerful. Muyu did not have the upper hand. Big earthworm, this guy seems to be an earthworm like you. Little Handsome said. Long Ting also looked at Long Xingyun's snake-headed dragon body and said in disdain, he is nothing. He is a roundworm. His claws are not as hard as mine. Are you serious? You are a piece of wood. Don't let him tear you apart with his claws. Little Handsome laughed. His force is not pure at all. It is not as pure as mine. How dare he say he is a dragon? F***CK. I can't take it anymore. Long Tongue said angrily. That was the truth. At least Mu Yu was sure of it. Long Xingyun also had a powerful dragon aura. However, this dragon aura was not as strong as Long Tongue's aura. Big earthworm, I still think you look better. At least you are a complete dragon. He is just a worm. Little Handsome gave a very honest evaluation. Aren't you talking nonsense? Long Tongue humphed arrogantly. Mu Yu also did not like Long Xingyun's hybrid body. It was awkward no matter how he looked at it. Hey, Long Xingyun, you don't even look like a dragon. Why are you so proud of your identity? What's the use of flaunting your power? Mu Yu asked with a smile. Long Xingyun yelled arrogantly. Ignorant human. There's only one true dragon in this world, and I'm the closest being to my grandpa's true dragon body. I have 90% of my grandfather's true dragon bloodline. Sooner or later, I will successfully transform into a true dragon. Wait, are you saying that your grandfather is the only true dragon in this world? Mu Yu was surprised. He had always thought that there would be many perfect dragons among the Green Dragon Monster King's descendants. However, according to Long Xingyun, it seemed that all of the Green Dragon Monster King's descendants were the amalgamation of dragons and other monsters. Dragons are supreme existences. My grandfather said that I have the highest chance of becoming the second true dragon. I will definitely inherit my grandfather's will and become the second true dragon. Long Xingyun shook his dragon body and then his head. Clearly, he was very satisfied with his dragon body. Mu Yu suddenly found it funny. Your grandfather was wrong. He is not the only true dragon in this world. You can't be the second true dragon. How dare you question the Green Dragon Monster King? A tiger-shaped monster shouted angrily. Long Xingyun laughed mockingly. Those who have a perfect dragon body are immortal beings. Do you think a true dragon's body is so easy to see? You are so narrow-minded and ignorant. Are all humans like you? Are you mocking yourself for being narrow-minded? I'm the one who has seen the second true dragon. Mu Yu gently shook his left arm. Dragon Vine was currently wrapping around his left arm, yawning and bickering with Little Handsome. You have seen the second true dragon? Haha, what a joke. Long Xingyun laughed as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. He was not the only one. The other monsters also laughed mockingly. Mu Yu's words sounded like nonsense to them. All the monsters knew that there was only one true dragon in this world, and that was the Green Dragon Monster King. You demon clansmen are really ill-informed. Don't you know that I used to ride a dragon everywhere? Mu Yu looked at the monsters with a smile, especially Long Xingyun. This guy really thought that he was great just because he had a dragon body. That ugly python head hanging on the dragon body was so out of place. Mu Yu wanted to chop off his head and put a python body on it. That way, he would look better. Long Xingyun and the others did not know what had happened to Mu Yu in the past. Even though Mu Yu had been running around on Dragon Vine when she had wreaked havoc on floating Immortal Island, the demon race had not come out back then, so they had never heard of this. Moreover, the 3 continents were so big. With their arrogant personalities, why would they care about Mu Yu when he was only in the Jinan period? There should be a limit to your bragging. Long Xingyun glared at him coldly. The surrounding spiritual qi gathered around him, and the surging dragon breath formed in his body again. Damn it, I can't take it anymore. Mu Yu, let me teach him a lesson. I will let him know what the real divine dragon's breath is. The dragon vine usually curled up and slept. With Mu Yu's help, it hid its aura very well. Normally, no one would notice its existence. However, when it saw Long Xingyun's strange dragon body, it felt that its dignity as a dragon had been destroyed by Long Xingyun. Its self-esteem was also provoked. How dare a python call itself a true dragon? How could the dragon vine live? Sure. However, You're only in the out-of-body stage now. You will have to use my wind-wind heart-linking formation. Muyu took a step back, and the 8 trigrams formation appeared under his feet. At the same time, the shadow clone sword in his hand released a powerful sword will. A dragon-shaped sword chi roared as it shot out from the sword. How dare you use the same move again? Long Xingyun was furious when he saw Mu Yu's new sword chi. He was not afraid of Mu Yu's sword chi, but he was just annoyed by Mu Yu's dragon-shaped sword will. That was because his sword chi was a real dragon. Although it was illusory, it was deliberately provoking him. However, at that moment, a purer and more domineering dragon aura suddenly descended upon everyone. Everyone's expression changed. They all looked at Long Xingyun, thinking that Long Xingyun's aura had changed. However, Long Xingyun's expression changed as well. That pure dragon aura did not come from him. Ignorant shifters, do you really think you are so great? Long Tongue roared. It turned into a flash of green light and shot out from Mu Yu's hand. Instantly, its body became enormous and swallowed up Mu Yu's sword chi. The entire dragon's aura became even more powerful and terrifying. This is... Boss Lu could not help but exclaim. Dragon, dragon. It's the aura of a real dragon. Old Tortoise was also shocked. All the shifters were stunned. The dragon aura on Long Tongue might not have any special effect on self-cultivators, but it was extraordinary for shifters and shifters. The noble aura that came from the soul made the shifters tremble in fear and awe. Long Tongue hovered around Mu Yu. Looking at the dumbfounded Long Xingyun, it said coldly, Son of a B***, do you think you are the closest to a real dragon? Which part of you is close to me? You wretch. Long Xingyun did not come to his senses for a long time. Even though he had 90% real dragon blood, he was still stunned by Long Tongue's aura, because the dragon aura on Long Tongue was 100% real dragon, which was many times more noble than a hybrid like him. Impossible, you must be faking it. How can you have my grandfather's real body? Long Xingyun looked at Long Tongue in disbelief, his face full of shock. Long Tongue had a majestic dragon head and dragon body, and 4 strong dragon claws. His dragon aura was especially authentic. Even Long Xingyun himself could not find anything fake when he asked, Big Earthworm, I didn't know you could use your aura to scare these shifters. Little Shuai was a little surprised. Although they had dealt with the shifters before, Long Tongue had never once attacked them. He did not expect to scare all the shifters with a casual jump today. It was unbelievable. Muyu was also a little surprised. He never knew that Long Tongue's aura was so useful. Usually, Long Tongue was the laziest existence. Other than sleeping, it would bicker with Little Shuai. Then, with Muyu's permission, Long Tongue would absorb some of Muyu's with elemental spiritual energy to cultivate. Long Tongue was a plant, so it liked Muyu's spiritual energy very much. Other than Muyu, Long Tongue did not like any other human, nor did it like any other shifters. It was very arrogant, so arrogant that it looked down on all living things, thinking that all living things were inferior to it. The only one that Long Tongue approved of was Muyu. Perhaps Little Shuai was also included, because Little Shuai was not afraid of Long Tongue, and even liked to laugh at Long Tongue. Long Tongue could not do anything to Little Shuai. After all, Little Shuai was also a muddle-headed but very powerful being. How can you be called a dragon with your filthy appearance? You're insulting me. Long Tongue looked at Long Xingyun with disdain. Boss Lu's eyes flashed. He suddenly shouted, Your Long Tongue? The Long Tongue that turned into a dragon. What? The Long Tongue that turned into a dragon. Long Xingyun's expression changed drastically. What's wrong with the Long Tongue that turned into a dragon? Do you have a problem with that? Long Tongue coldly glanced at Boss Lu and swung its tail. Boss Lu and Old Tortoise walked over in fear and trepidation. Suddenly, they knelt down in front of Long Tongue. Their actions once again shocked all the shifters. Even Muyu was puzzled. Why would these 2 old fogies suddenly bow to Long Tongue? Boss Lu and Old Tortoise looked at each other and said respectfully, No, Honorable Lord True Dragon, You've misunderstood. We don't dare to have a problem with that. This is normal because Green Dragon Ancestor's true form is also Long Tongue. This time, it was Mu Yu and Long Tongue's turn to be shocked. They never thought that Green Dragon Monster King was the same as Long Tongue. Chapter 597. Is that old Monster King the same as me? Dragonvine asked in confusion. When Long Tongue said, Old, undying Demon King, all the demon clansmen gulped. Green Dragon Monster King was the supreme existence of a monster race. No one dared to challenge his authority. If any human dared to say that, they would have charged over and fought with their lives. But it was Dragonvine who said it. That was a different story. We don't dare to talk nonsense about this. Many Monster Kings don't know about Green Dragon Monster King's true form. Only those close to him know. Of course, we also know a little about it from a few thousand years ago. Boss Lu quickly said, the lifespan of the demon tribe was also limited. They could only live for about 200 years. However, Boss Deer and Old Turtle had their demon souls extracted by a secret method of the demon tribe. They had been guarding the demon island of the second heaven. Recently, the White Ape Demon King had used a secret method to forcibly find a suitable body to resurrect them. Dragonvine needs 10,000 years to become a dragon. Does that mean Green Dragon Monster King has lived for tens of thousands of years? Mu Yu touched Dragonvine's scales. He usually didn't care about Dragonvine. Who would have thought that he would be accompanied by an existence that shared the same origin as Green Dragon Monster King? He had always treated Dragonvine as a plant with its own consciousness. However, Mu Yu thought of something else. Xiao Shui had seen Dragonvine before. She grew up in a monster race and should know that Green Dragon Monster King's true form was Dragonvine. However, Xiao Shui had never told Mu Yu about this. Suddenly, Long Xingyun roared and a terrifying aura attacked Dragonvine. You can't be a real dragon. You're a fake Dragonvine. Long Xingyun roared. Stop! Boss Lu and Old Turtle stood up and shouted. However, Long Xingyun didn't intend to stop. Just as Boss Lu and Old Turtle were about to stop him, Dragonvine behind him roared. An even more sacred aura met Long Xingyun's attack. His body carried a sharp sword chi and a green breath shot out. The dragon breath split into 9 in the air. 9 powerful sword shadows intertwined with each other and clashed with Dragon Starfall. Long Xingyun's attack was naturally far stronger than Long Tongue's, but Mu Yu's sword aura instantly buffed Long Tongue. Long Tongue's aura instantly overshadowed Long Xingyun's. The 9 sword shadows destroyed Long Xingyun's attack like breaking a twig, sending Long Xingyun flying and crashing into the wall. A bastard like you dares to say that I'm an imposter? The Dragonvine looked at Long Xingyun arrogantly. It was disdainful of Long Xingyun's serpent head. Its entire body was like an irresistible heavenly sword, fierce and domineering. Long Xingyun was knocked into the wall, but he wasn't seriously injured. When he stood up and was about to kill Long Tongue again, Boss Lu and Old Tortoise released their powers and suppressed Long Xingyun, preventing him from attacking again. You two old things, how dare you attack me? Are you tired of living? Long Xingyun said angrily. Boss Lu said seriously, Xingyun, we respect you because you're the grandson of Patriarch Green Dragon. That's why we're giving you enough respect. But the master behind me is as powerful as Patriarch Green Dragon. You're not allowed to hurt him. I'm the grandson of Monster King Green Dragon. How dare you help an outsider against me? Are you trying to rebel? Long Xingyun said, gritting his teeth. Boss Lu and Old Tortoise's expressions changed. Rebelling was a taboo crime in the Monster Clan. It was tantamount to challenging the authority of the Monster Kings. Neither of them could bear the consequences. Old Tortoise said in a low voice, we don't dare to rebel, but we respect the true dragon god. We only follow the master who has the bloodline of the true dragon. We swear to protect the true dragon with our lives. That's the mission of all monster clans. How dare you? I'm the one who has the bloodline of the true dragon. Long Xingyun was furious. Although you're the grandson of Patriarch Green Dragon, your bloodline isn't pure. But this master is a real true dragon. We have to ensure his safety. Boss Lu's voice was firm. Muyu didn't expect that Long Tongue's appearance would make these two old fogies stand on their side. That was something new. But looking at Long Xingyun's angry face, Muyu felt relieved. Muyu didn't understand how monster clans thought, but that didn't stop him from attacking Long Xingyun's confidence. Long Tongue, a lazy dragon, was more important than Long Xingyun in the eyes of the monster clans. That was a slap to Long Xingyun's face. Long Xingyun's face was red. He glared at Long Tongue, wishing he could cut Long Tongue into pieces. As the grandson of Monster King Green Dragon, he couldn't compare to a foreign dragon. What a humiliation. Oh, so you all respect me that much. Looks like you're not that annoying after all. Long Tongue shook his body and said lazily, Master True Dragon, you must be joking. Boss Lu said awkwardly, Forget it. I can't be bothered to argue with a python. Let's go. Muyu patted Long Tongue's body. Long Tongue's body shrunk rapidly and circled around Muyu's shoulder. Master, please wait. Old Tortoise hurried over to stop Muyu. Master, we need to protect you until you return to the monster clan safely, just in case. Are you crazy? He's not even a monster clansman. Are you two old things trying to rebel? Long Xingyun scolded. Ancestor Green Dragon has been looking for another true dragon that's qualified to inherit his legacy. Now that we've found one for him, we have to bring him to Ancestor Green Dragon. Boss Lu said, My grandfather said that I'm the most qualified monster clansman to inherit his legacy. Long Xingyun said angrily. Ancestor Green Dragon also said that you'll only be qualified to inherit his legacy after you've completely transformed into a true dragon. He also said that anyone who becomes a complete true dragon will be qualified to inherit his legacy. Boss Lu said without hesitation. Long Tongue blinked. Why did it feel like it was involved in some messy legacy? However, it was used to being lazy and did not like the Green Dragon Monster King, whom it had never met before. It said in a low voice, I'm not interested. Muyu, let's leave this place quickly. Seeing something that's neither a dragon nor a snake, it hurts my eyes. Muyu chuckled. Boss Lu, an old tortoise. Did you hear that? Long Tongue doesn't like this place. Since you don't welcome us, we'll meet again. Muyu walked around the two of them and walked out. Master, Boss Lu was anxious. He hurriedly followed and said, Master True Dragon, you can't leave. Muyu, my friend, I know we were wrong in the past, but I hope you can help us talk some sense into Master True Dragon. As long as Master True Dragon returns to the Monster Clan with us, Ancestor Green Dragon will definitely treat Muyu well. I can't do that. I don't care where Long Tongue wants to go. Muyu shrugged indifferently. As for whether Long Tongue was qualified to become a Monster King, it was not a big deal to him. Did he not think that he had seen enough Demon Kings? I don't want to go to a strange place and see a bunch of half-dragons and half-worms, Long Tongue said. Inheriting Green Dragon Monster King's legacy was a big deal for many monster clansmen, but Long Tongue was not interested, because Long Tongue liked Muyu's with spiritual power. It was a very noble species, which naturally meant that it was very intelligent. It knew what was best for it. Boss Lu and Old Turtle were so anxious that they almost went crazy. They whispered to each other for a while, then stopped talking. Suddenly, they silently followed behind Muyu. Muyu took 2 steps forward and found that she was entangled by the 2 old antiques. She immediately rolled her eyes and said, Are you 2 done yet? Why are you following me? We have to ensure Master True Dragon's safety. Boss Lu said seriously. Safety your ass. It's been with me for so many years, and it's always been alive and kicking. Don't tell me it's going to die now. It's your business if you don't want to. It's our duty to protect Master True Dragon. Old Turtle said righteously. Muyu was at his wit's end. These 2 old antiques were at the form synthesis stage. How could he get rid of them? Big Earthworm, it's all your fault. Now we have 2 more followers. Xiao Shuai said unhappily. Longting also felt a little annoyed. She asked, Hey, will you 2 listen to my orders? Master True Dragon, please tell us what you want to say. Boss Lu said respectfully. Don't follow us. Long Tongue said directly. Yes, Master. Boss Lu answered. Muyu turned and disappeared into the darkness. But after 2 steps, he found that Boss Lu and Old Turtle were following him again. "Didn't I tell you not to follow us?" Muyu asked helplessly. "We are going to the same place as you." Boss Lu did not feel embarrassed at all. When he said this, he said it as if it were true. Fine. He could not get rid of these 2 dogskin plasters. But at this moment, Xiao Shui, who was patrolling outside, saw them and quickly followed them. "What's wrong? Why did you come out?" Xiao Shui asked curiously. She did not know what had happened after she left. "Xiao Shui, you came at the right time." Muyu told Xiao Shui about Long Tongue. Xiao Shui slightly frowned and said, "Muyu, don't leave first. Xingyun was wrong, but there is one thing I need to tell you clearly." Xiao Shui then turned to Boss Lu and Old Turtle and said, "Old Lu, Old Turtle, you 2 go back first. Don't worry, I will look after them and not let them leave." But Old Lu did not agree. "Grandpa Azure Dragon trusts me the most. Have you forgotten? I won't do anything that will disappoint him," Xiao Shui said solemnly. Boss Lu and Old Turtle glanced at Xiao Shui, then turned and returned to the turtle shell. Xiao Shui brought Muyu to the beach. The bright moonlight shone on the beach, and the waves gently caressed the beach. A mist appeared beside Xiao Shui and enveloped Muyu, isolating him from others. "Xiao Shui, did you know about Long Tongue long ago?" Muyu asked. Xiao Shui looked at Long Tongue on Muyu's shoulder and nodded. "I know about Long Tongue, but I did not say anything because once someone discovers Long Tongue's existence, not only Long Tongue, but also you will be in danger." Chapter 598. The sea breeze blew gently, fluttering their clothes. Muyu sat comfortably on the reef, looking at the distant sea under the moonlight, and a salty smell hit his face. "Actually, when I saw the dragon vine, I knew this would be troublesome. You don't know the current situation of the demons, so I don't want you to get involved." Xiao Shui sat beside Muyu and stroked Little Handsome's tail. "It's fine. I don't want to get involved." Muyu had a lot of trouble and didn't want to cause any more trouble. Xiao Shui blamed herself. "I forgot to remind you. You can't show the dragon vine to the demons. The true dragon bloodline in the dragon vine is very precious. It can make all demons tremble, but it doesn't mean all demons will submit to it. The internal situation of the demons is very complicated. Forming factions is very serious, and the existence of the dragon vine is a variable. Ever since the demons were defeated by the humans thousands of years ago, they couldn't recover. They couldn't nurture any outstanding demons to revitalize the demon race. The demons were all demons with intelligence that transformed into human form. Their situation was actually the same as the humans. The relationship between demons and demons was like the relationship between mortals and cultivators. While cultivators had different sects and clans, the demons also had their own differences. Among them, the Azure Dragon naturally stood at the top and ruled over thousands of demons. However, the war between the humans and demons had caused many types of demons to go extinct. Those who survived were the old, weak, sick, and disabled. The talented demons had disappeared and couldn't support the entire demon race. Therefore, the Azure Dragon Demon King decided to use his bloodline to make the demon stronger. Like the dragon vine, the Azure Dragon Demon King was very arrogant. He didn't care about other races. At that time, the Azure Dragon Demon King was the only true dragon in the world. Therefore, he had always been alone and disdained to mate with other races. However, for the continuation of the demon race, the Azure Dragon Demon King gave up his dignity and had many descendants with other demons. Because of the Azure Dragon Demon King's noble bloodline, many of his descendants also had dragon characteristics and became stronger than ordinary demons. All demons were proud of having the noble true dragon bloodline. The purer the true dragon bloodline, the more the Azure Dragon Monster King would value it. The 10 Archfiend Kings each had their own way of governing, but because the Archfiend Kings had been sealed away by the human race, only the Azure Dragon Dynasty was left. The Azure Dragon Monster King was already old. He wanted to find a leader who could truly lead the monster race to glory, while he retreated behind the scenes. The Azure Dragon Demon King was a prideful existence, so he was very strict in selecting his successor. After several thousand years, the monarch had countless descendants, but none of them were perfect. This was one of his regrets. He had said that the monster clansman with 100% true dragon bloodline would be able to become the emperor of the Azure Dragon Dynasty and lead it. There were too many descendants of the dragon, so naturally, there would be a struggle for power. Everyone stared at the throne of the Azure Dragon Dynasty, but no one met the requirements. There were too few Yao clansmen who had 100% true dragon bloodline. Now, the monster race had split into dozens of factions. 4 of them were the strongest. They were the Jade Dragon of the Northern Abyss, the Black Tiger Dragon of the Hidden Forest, the Purple Lightning Winged Dragon, and the Demon Dragon Python. Long Xingyun's father was the Jade Dragon of the Northern Abyss. He had 80% true dragon bloodline, but Long Xingyun had 90% true dragon bloodline. He was infinitely close to a true dragon. That was why he was valued by many Yao clansmen. As long as he could successfully transform into a python head and become a true dragon with 100% true dragon bloodline, he could inherit the Azure Dragon Monster King's legacy and become the emperor of the Azure Dragon Dynasty. However, the other 3 factions also had close to 90% true dragon bloodline descendants. They were just a bit weaker than Long Xingyun. That was why the monster race had never stopped fighting. If a dragon vine with 100% true dragon bloodline appeared now, it was obvious who the emperor of the Azure Dragon Dynasty would belong to. Then why don't we go to the monster race and become the emperor? Little Shui was very interested in this. It heard that the emperor didn't have to worry about food or clothing. The main point was that they didn't have to worry about food. Xiao Shui shook her head. With dragon vine strength, he won't be able to become the emperor. I know that he will definitely be recognized by Grandpa Azure Dragon, but he won't be recognized by the other Yao clansmen. After all, Dragon Vine is an outsider. He didn't grow up in the monster race. Once he enters the monster race, I can tell you without any exaggeration that he will lose his life in less than a month. Muyi was shocked. They still dare to do it with the Azure Dragon Monster King's support. Grandpa Azure Dragon can't always be by his side. The Yao clansmen are very cruel. It's too easy for them to kill Dragon Vine without anyone knowing. Even if Grandpa Azure Dragon wants to pursue the matter, it's useless. Once Dragon Vine is dead, the position of Emperor will still be empty. The 4 factions of Yao clansmen restrict each other. They don't want anyone to break this balance. Xiao Shui explained. Because Muyi was only in the out-of-body stage at that time, and Dragon Vine wasn't very strong, Xiao Shui didn't say anything. She was worried that it would bring trouble to Muyu. Once the 4 Yao clansmen knew of Dragon Vine's existence, they would definitely think of ways to get rid of him. No wonder Long Xingyun wanted to kill Dragon Vine. So that's why. Muyu nodded. Long Xingyun had 90% true dragon bloodline. If he could successfully evolve to 100% true dragon bloodline, with his powerful father as his backer, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone playing tricks when he became the emperor of the Blue Dragon Dynasty. However, Dragon Vine was different. He had no one to rely on. Muyu couldn't stay with him forever, so Dragon Vine didn't have long to live. So, if I want to get rid of this trouble, do I have to go back and kill Long Xingyun? Muyu patted his head. Why did he always get into trouble? You know that's impossible, Xiao Shui said. First of all, I won't let you kill him. Second of all, he has a body integration stage flood dragon protecting him. You won't have a chance. Then Xiao Shui said worriedly, I shouldn't have left you alone tonight. After I found out about Dragon Vine, I happened to encounter Elder Dead Tree. I didn't want to add to your troubles, so I didn't say anything. I didn't expect that they would still discover Dragon Vine's existence. Then what should I do now? I can't just wait for them to kill me, right? Muyu lay on the reef and looked at the moon. He let out a sigh of relief. Another trouble had come to bother him for no reason. Xiao Shui didn't know how to deal with this. She had feelings for the Yao clansmen, but Muyu was also her good friend. They were the same kind of people. She didn't know how to choose. Dragon Vine swung its tail and said, What's there to be afraid of? If one comes, we'll kill one. If two come, we'll kill both. Isn't it better to get rid of those imposters? Noble species despised imposters the most. You're quite open-minded. Muyu smiled and patted Dragonvine's head. Dragonvine's small body stood on his chest, and its two dragon whiskers swayed. It was fearless. In fact, Muyu had thought about it. Even if he didn't expose himself tonight, the Yao clansman would hear about Dragonvine sooner or later. The last time he was at Floating Immortal Island, it was because the Yao clansman hadn't chosen to come out. However, Muyu had already displayed Dragonvine once in Clearwater City. This matter couldn't be hidden. Sooner or later, the Yao clansman would hear about it. All right, they said that the Green Dragon Demon King was also transformed from Dragonvine. Is that true? Muyu asked curiously. He never knew that the Green Dragon Demon King, the leader of the 10 Great Demon Kings, was actually a plant. Xiao Shui nodded. Grandpa Green Dragon's original form is indeed Dragonvine. However, his cultivation level is unfathomable. It's not something you can control, so don't even think about it. Muyu did have this thought in the beginning. Later, he remembered that the Green Dragon Demon King was an immortal existence like his master, Jianing Chenfeng. Even if he wasn't Jianing Chenfeng's match, he wasn't someone he could overthink. Therefore, he gave up on this thought. Muyu didn't really control Dragonvine, but he knew that plants with consciousness would resist, especially existences like Dragonvine. The Green Dragon Demon King had participated in the war with Yu Meng. He definitely wouldn't be controlled by Gomong, let alone Muyu. How long has the Green Dragon Demon King been alive? Muyu couldn't help but feel curious. Dragonvine was originally a plant. It would only develop consciousness after 10,000 years. Since ancient times, many dragonvines couldn't grow to 10,000 years because they were too rare. Many people didn't know that the Green Dragon Demon King was originally a plant. Grandpa Green Dragon is immortal. He accidentally mentioned to me last time that it's too difficult to transform from a dragonvine into a true dragon. The Heavenly Tao severely restricts the dragonvine race. A dragonvine can only transform into a true dragon every 10,000 years. If a second dragonvine wants to transform into a true dragon, it needs to germinate when the first dragonvine transforms. Then, after 10,000 years, it will become a second true dragon. If this condition isn't met, the other dragonvines won't be able to transform into a true dragon even if they live for 10,000 years. Only one dragonvine is allowed to transform into a true dragon within 10,000 years, Xiao Shui said. So the gap between the appearance of the two true dragons is exactly 10,000 years? That means the Green Dragon Demon King has lived for at least 10,000 years? Muyu was surprised. If the Green Dragon Demon King was the first true dragon, then the dragon vine in front of him just happened to germinate when the Green Dragon Demon King transformed into a true dragon. In the end, it was lucky enough to live for 10,000 years until it was captured by the cultivators on the eve of its transformation. Fortunately, the dragon vine met Muyu at that time. Otherwise, it would have been taken away by him to make life-prolonging pills. Then I'm really a miracle of life. No, since I have a brother in the same boat, and he's called Green Dragon, I should at least have a name. Dragon Vine doesn't sound good. The Dragon Vine tilted its head and said, I'm called Little Handsome. Why don't you be called Clown? Little Handsome said very enthusiastically, Bah, if you're called Little Handsome, then I'll be called Big Handsome from now on. Big Handsome is my name when I grow up. You're not allowed to use it. You'll never grow up with this size. Then I'll change my name to Big Handsome. You'll be Little Handsome. Bah, I'm not going to use a lousy name like Little Handsome. The two weirdos started bickering over a name again. Muyu helplessly looked at the two clowns beside him. He thought that his life was really tiring. Not only did he have to find food for Little Handsome, this glutton, but he also had to help a loafer avoid being hunted by the demon race. It was really unreasonable. Chapter 599. Long Xingyan glared at Big Brother Lu and Old Tortoise. These two were actually White Ape Demon King subordinates. They only obeyed White Ape Demon King's orders. Although Long Xingyan was the little prince of the monster clan, it was only because he had 90% true dragon bloodline in him. If he didn't become the emperor of the Azure Dragon dynasty, he wouldn't have the right to order the subordinates of the other demon kings around. Big Brother Lu and Old Tortoise smiled bitterly. They knew they had offended Long Xingyun, but they had no choice but to do so for the sake of the monster clan. The 10 demon kings were led by the Azure Dragon Demon King. Every monster clan member had the responsibility to be loyal to the Azure Dragon Demon King and protect the true dragon. Long Xingyun walked out with a middle-aged body integration stage monster clan member beside him. This monster clan member was called Long Yeli. His original form was a flood dragon. He was also a descendant of the dragon clan. However, he only had 30% true dragon bloodline in him and was not a direct descendant. He was the 132nd generation descendant of the Azure Dragon. His status was far lower than Long Xingyun, the 3rd generation descendant of the Azure Dragon. Therefore, he could only be Long Xingyun's bodyguard. This was very common in the monster clan today. The monster clan society was different from that of the human clan. The Azure Dragon had always been trying to find a descendant of the true dragon. Therefore, the higher the true dragon bloodline, the higher the status of the monster clan member. There are even cases where a newborn child would be the grandfather of an old monster clan member. The hierarchy of the monster clan was very messy. Therefore, they usually didn't use seniority to determine status. Instead, they used bloodline and strength to determine status and status. In the Azure Dragon dynasty, any monster clan member without true dragon bloodline would be looked down upon. Uncle Yeli, a true dragon has appeared. What should we do now? Long Xingyun was much more senior than Long Yeli. However, Long Yeli had been protecting Long Xingyun since he was young. Therefore, Long Xingyun had always called him that. Young Master Xingyun, I've used a secret technique to inform the family head. He will make the decision. That brat is going the same way as us. He will definitely bring the dragon vine to the sacred island. As long as we think of a way to bypass the 2 old fogies under the White Ape Demon King, we will find another chance to capture that dragon. Long Yeli's eyes revealed a trace of viciousness. Capture? Why didn't you just kill him? Long Xingyun said angrily. Long Yeli said mysteriously, Young master, have you forgotten? With your current situation, it will be difficult for you to achieve 100% bloodline. This is a true dragon with 100% bloodline. Do you understand what I mean? You're saying, Long Xingyun's eyes lit up as he sneered. It's good that young master understands. As long as we capture this true dragon, the position of Emperor of the Azure Dragon dynasty will definitely belong to young master. Long Yeli said fanatically. There were currently 4 dragon clans in the Azure Dragon dynasty, and all of them coveted the throne. However, none of the dragons were able to successfully ascend the throne because none of them were able to cultivate a descendant with 100% true dragon bloodline. Long Xingyun was the closest to the bloodline of a true dragon. The other 3 dragons were also eyeing him. It was impossible for Long Xingyun to not have any life-saving abilities. Now that a true dragon had appeared, it would severely affect the status of the 4 dragon clans. The other 3 would definitely have the same idea as Long Xingyun when they heard the news. They would capture Long Tongue alive, use a secret skill of the shifters to forcefully extract Long Tongue's bloodline, and refine Long Tongue's bloodline essence into their own body to become a true dragon. I've decided. I'll be called Sword Dragon from now on. After all, I can use Muyu's sword chi to unleash the powerful dragon tongue roar. Long Tongue said seriously. Cheap dragon? This. Let's change the name. Muyu said helplessly as he patted his head. Does it not sound good? How about Tyrannosaurus Rex? Isn't it domineering enough? Long Tongue said excitedly. How tacky, but it suits your tacky temperament. Big earthworm. Xiao Shui mocked. Tacky? How about Dragon Roar? Long Tongue happily gave himself a name. In any case, no matter what name you give in my eyes, it's still a big earthworm. Xiao Shui happily gnawed on a roasted goose leg. Xiao Shui looked at Muyu worriedly and asked, Do you have to go to the Demon Island with us? Muyu said with a green foxtail in his mouth, I want to go with you, not the other shifters. Xiao Shui blushed slightly and said, I mean, is there a reason why you have to go to the Demon Island? Muyu listened to the waves hitting the shore and sighed. In addition to destroying the plan of the Gate of Hell's people, I also need to repair my father's soul and fuse the hole in Mu Ling's body. He left out one more reason, and that was to kill the people of the Gate of Hell. In order to break the Nine Heavens demon ceiling formation, he needed to use the power of slaughter to destroy the balance of the 5 elements in his body. Muyu did not want to kill the innocent, so he decided to kill the people of the Gate of Hell to accumulate the power of slaughter. With Mu Ling around, he did not need to worry about the people he killed creating soul power for the triple-layered palace. What he needed to care about was how to kill the people of the Gate of Hell and how many people he needed to kill to destroy the balance of the 5 elements in his body. Xiao Shui said, The people of the Gate of Hell seem to know the route to the Holy Island. I have always been curious how they know. This matter was a bit laughable. The 10 shifters each did their own thing and protected the secrets of their respective dynasties. In the end, after something happened, the other shifters could not find them at all. And Xiao Shui and the others needed the help of the people of the Gate of Hell to find the territory of Sea Demon King Yujiang. It sounded unbelievable. I know, they captured a cultivator called Red Dragon Duke. This person had been to the Demon Island of Sea Demon King before. Muyu said, Back then, Red Dragon Duke had reached the end of his lifespan and had no choice but to ask perfected Jiuhua for help. At that time, Gue Xianyue was also present. Gue Xianyue wanted to find this island, but because of the existence of a mortal confining prison, the protectors of the Gate of Hell could not enter Mo Yun mountain range. Now that a mortal confining prison had disappeared, they began to prepare for this plan. However, according to what Azura Gue had said back then, the people of Ghoul's Gate should have already been to Ghost Island once. However, because they were not prepared enough, there were losses. This time, the Ghost Lord was personally taking action to prevent anything from going wrong. As for whether Red Dragon Duke was still alive or not, Muyu did not know. They're still recuperating in a nearby bay. They should be waiting for the opportunity to go out to sea. Since we can't fly to the island and can only take a boat, we can just follow behind them. Xiao Shui said, The sea and land were different. The seawater flowed in different directions in different seasons. Yu Jiang was the demon king of the sea. He understood the sea better than anyone else. He must have used a special ocean circulation to hide the exact location of his territory. Other than taking a boat at a specific time and using a special route, it was impossible to reach it at any other time. Muyu did not have a better idea. The two were silent for a while. Muyu said, Earlier, you said that the Gate of Hell set a trap for me. What is this about? Did you fight with the Gate of Hell at some point in time? They seemed to know that you were coming, so they used a woman from the Gate of Hell to attract you. Xiao Shui looked at Muyu with a strange gaze. That woman is called Gue Hongyu. Do you also have an ambiguous relationship with Gue Hongyu? They used Gue Hongyu to lure you out? What? Are you jealous? Muyu looked at Xiao Shui with a smile that was not a smile. Of course not. Why would I be jealous? Xiao Shui looked away and snorted. You obviously are. Look. Your face is red. Xiao Shui raised his little paw and interrupted. Little Mouse said that everyone likes girls with big breasts. Your breasts are bigger than Gue Hongyu's, so we all like you and not Gue Hongyu. Long Tongue was a good and considerate child. What nonsense are you talking about? Muyu scolded. You don't like girls with big breasts? Long Tongue asked curiously. The most important thing is the beauty of the heart. Muyu said in a serious tone. Oh, then you don't like them. Long Tongue suddenly realized. Who said I don't like them? It's none of your business whether I like them or not. Muyu scolded. Xiao Shui glared at the two little guys and asked, Have you two decided on a name? Not yet. Little Mouse said that he wanted to name me Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I'm not white. I think Chunglong is a good name. Long Tongue turned around and continued to think of a name with Xiao Shui. Muyu ignored the two of them and explained, I planted a kind of wood on Gue Hongyu's body. I used it to follow her. Now, it should have been discovered by one of the ghost sect protectors. Then you should come with us. With me here, Long Xingyan won't dare to do anything to you. In addition, Elder Lu and Elder Gui will protect Long Tongue. At least, Long Xingyan won't do anything to you on the way to the Devil Island. Xiao Shui suggested. Muyu did not intend to borrow the power of the Devil Race. He was used to being alone. However, considering that he didn't know the specific route of the Demon Island, he could only follow behind the Devil's Gate people. Since the Demon Race was doing the same thing as him, then he and the Demon Race were indeed going the same way, so there was nothing to refuse. Okay, but let me say this first. If Long Xingyun has any ill intentions, I will kill him. Although Muyu's cultivation was not as good as Long Xingyun's, he was a powerful formation master. With the chaotic yin and yang, he was also a Xiantian formation master without any shortcomings. He definitely had the strength to kill Long Xingyun. Xiao Shui nodded. I understand. If he dares to do anything to Long Tongue, who has the bloodline of the true dragon, then he is unforgivable. In the Devil Race, the higher the bloodline of the true dragon, the higher the status. Although Xiao Shui was not strictly a Devil Race member, she had a high status because of her special ability. She was familiar with the rules of the Devil Race. Chapter 600. Muyu and Xiao Shui did not return to the turtle shell. Instead, they lay on the reef and counted the stars in the sky. From time to time, they would reject the random names that Long Tongue gave them. After not seeing each other for more than a year, the two of them had endless things to talk about. It was supposed to be a heartwarming scene, but there would always be someone who would spoil the mood and act as a third party. When Boss Lu and Old Tortoise saw that Muyu and Xiao Shui had not returned, they anxiously ran out to look for them. When they saw that Xiao Shui and Muyu were lying down and sitting down, they were relieved and did not leave. Are the two of you bored? Are you going to watch me do something embarrassing with Xiao Shui? Muyu said impatiently. Xiao Shui kicked Muyu and blushed. We can close our eyes, Boss Lu and Old Tortoise said seriously. Big Earthworm, hurry up and play with those two. They'll buy you candy, Xiao Shui said. What about you? Long Tongue asked. I want to see Big Sister Xiao Shui and Muyu do something embarrassing, Xiao Shui said expectantly. Muyu directly kicked him away. In short, this originally beautiful night was mixed with a hint of awkwardness after the two pieces of dogskin plasters were added to the harmonious atmosphere. Muyu was not unfamiliar with these two fellows. After all, he had dealt with them for a few months when he was in the second heaven. However, they kept staring at Long Tongue, as if they were afraid that Long Tongue would melt or something. This made Long Tongue feel uncomfortable. These two fellows were also body integration stage monsters, so Muyu could not do anything to them. Soon, the sky brightened. At this moment, Xiao Shui suddenly said, "The people from the Gate of Hell are moving." The people from the Gate of Hell were at a bay about 10 li away from here. They didn't dare to get too close, as they were worried that they would be discovered by the people from the Gate of Hell. Xiao Shui's control over the seawater was her forte. Muyu sat up and asked, "Are they preparing to go out to sea?" Xiao Shui nodded. Just like when Muyu was in the forest, where the trees within a certain range were his eyes, the sea within 10 li was also Xiao Shui's eyes. She could observe every movement of the people in the Gate of Hell. I didn't dare to control the water too obviously, or they would notice it. However, they've already boarded a ship and set off, Xiao Shui said. After a brief pause, she deliberately added, Gui Hong Yu is also among them. She's fine. Muyu touched his forehead and spread out his hands. I don't care if Gui Hong Yu is here or not, okay? Just now, Gui Hong Yu's godwood aura had disappeared. Obviously, the protector of the Gate of Hell had destroyed it. Gui Yeming's cultivation is unfathomable. Without ancestor White Ape, we're not his opponent. We must be careful. Old Turtle, go tell the others to get ready. We're going to board a ship, Boss Lu said. If they wanted to go to the island, they couldn't fly. They had to take a ship. Gui Yeming? The Gate of Hell's Ghost Lord is Gui Yeming? Muyu didn't know this person's name. Yes, this person's cultivation is very strong. I'm afraid we're not necessarily his opponent, so we must be careful, Boss Lu said cautiously. Muyi nodded. Azura said that Gue Yiming was going to the island for a secret. What secret was it that Gue Yiming was going there personally? Long Xingyun and the others had packed up and came over. He stared at Dragonvine, who was coiled on Muyu's shoulder. Muyu looked back at him coldly. Long Xingyun suddenly revealed a vicious smile, then glanced at somewhere else. Everyone sit on my shell. Be careful at all times. Ancestor White Ape is not here. If we're discovered by Gue Yiming, we'll be in trouble, Old Turtle said seriously, then threw his shell into the sea. As soon as the shell touched the water, it suddenly became more than 10 meters long. The center of the shell was slightly sunken, making it easier for everyone to sit. Everyone stood on top of the turtle shell without hesitation. Then, Old Tortoise also stood on top of it. Then, he controlled the turtle shell and set off. It had to be said that Old Tortoise's shell was indeed very stable. Walking on it was like walking on flat ground, without a trace of bumps. Although the seasick White Ape Demon King did not come on board, Old Tortoise still made the journey very steady. The sea was different from the land. Even some of the demons couldn't stand the sea's climate. So for the smooth sailing, most of the demons were familiar with the water. But most of the demons in the Azure Dragon dynasty were terrestrial demons with spiritual wisdom, and they were all descendants of the Azure Dragon. At this moment, they had more or less the bloodline of the true dragon. So even if they were familiar with the water, they didn't dare to say that they could do whatever they wanted in the sea. There were 6 demons in the spirit severing stage. One of them was Long Xingyun, the other 3 were the Dragon Carp brothers, one was a dragon turtle, one was a female demon, and the last one was a hippopotamus. The hippopotamus didn't have the bloodline of the true dragon, but strength was a symbol of identity and status among the demons. So no one looked down on him. Among the fusion stage demons, in addition to Long Yelly, Boss Lu, and Old Turtle, there was also a crocodile dragon. Boss Lu and Old Turtle had the highest cultivation, followed by the crocodile dragon. Boss Lu and Old Turtle were used to life in the sea, so sailing was no big deal for them. Strictly speaking, the rest of the demons didn't live in the sea. They just knew how to swim. Xiao Shui sat in the front. She had to keep an eye on the people in the Gate of Hell. In order not to be discovered by the people in the Gate of Hell, she couldn't get too close. She kept a distance of about 10 miles. Muyu also sat with her. The two of them enjoyed the sea breeze together and chatted for time. Long Xingyun was watching them from behind. Xiao Shui is mine. Long Xingyun was infuriated. His hatred for Yu had reached its peak. Long Xingyun was especially jealous when he saw Long Tang's perfect body of a true dragon. Except for his head, his entire body was very close to that of a true dragon. However, Long Tongue was a complete true dragon. You arrogant dragon. Let's see how long you can jump around. Long Xingyun was furious. In order to become a true dragon and become the emperor of the Azure Dragon dynasty, he had been working hard. He had even done many unspeakable things. Therefore, Long Tongue had become a thorn in his side. It was not the first time he had devoured bloodlines to improve himself. In the Azure Dragon dynasty, the competition between the dragon clans was very cruel. It was very difficult to become a true dragon by relying on one's own bloodline. Because they were hybrids, no matter how pure their bloodline was, they would still have the characteristics of other Yao beasts. It was impossible to avoid this. Therefore, devouring bloodlines became a shortcut for the Dragon Clan. This method was strictly forbidden by the Azure Dragon Monster King. However, the Dragon Clan leaders disobeyed. In order to let their descendants have a strong true dragon bloodline, they secretly looked for weak Yao beasts with very pure bloodlines. They forcefully took the true dragon bloodline from their bodies and merged it with their own. However, merging bloodlines was not easy. It was very risky, and the success rate was less than 10%. Although they all had the true dragon bloodline, it was still mixed with the bloodline of other Yao beasts. These bloodlines could easily reject one's own bloodline. If they failed, their own bloodline would be destroyed and they would lose their lives. Long Xingyun was not born with 90% true dragon bloodline. He originally only had 80%. He had only managed to reach 90% by devouring the bloodline of 2 other Yao beasts. The second time, he had almost lost his life. Therefore, he did not dare to devour again. However, he knew that devouring Long Tongue's bloodline was not a problem at all. As long as he devoured Long Tongue, he would definitely become a true dragon. However, Long Tongue seemed to be provoking him. It wagged its tail in front of him. Long Xingyun was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Muyu had already sensed Long Xingyun's hostility. However, he did not ask Long Tongue to restrain himself. After all, Long Tongue's identity had been exposed. There was no need to hide. A true dragon was indeed a true dragon. If a true dragon had to be afraid of a true dragon, then it would be inexcusable. Boss Lu and Old Turtle were on this ship. Long Xingyun did not dare to do anything. He was not stupid enough to attack Long Ting openly. Some things had to be done in secret. Wait, they stopped. Xiao Shui suddenly said. Stop. Old Turtle quickly stopped the ship and looked at Xiao Shui in confusion. At this moment, only Xiao Shui knew what the people from the Gate of Hell were doing. No one else could see it. Therefore, they could only listen to her. I don't know why they stopped. They seemed to be measuring the direction of the sea breeze. Xiao Shui said, The direction of the sea breeze? How do they measure it? Xiao Shui, describe it to me. Old Turtle was most familiar with the sea. However, he could not see the situation of the people from the Gate of Hell. Therefore, he could not determine what the people from the Gate of Hell were doing. However, one of their missions was to determine the specific route to the island. Therefore, they had to figure out the movements of the people from the Gate of Hell. Next time, they could go alone. They used a rope with 5 blood-red things floating on the sea. I don't know what they are. Then, they took out a wind chime and a lantern shrouded in black fog. At least, I think it is a lantern. They are looking at the sun through the lantern. It seems like they are measuring the position of the sun. However, I don't know what they are doing with the lantern. Xiao Shui explained for a long time. However, she could not explain it clearly because the actions of the people from the Gate of Hell were very strange. Xiao Shui described it several times and added all kinds of details, but no one understood. Old Turtle could only be anxious. If only I could see the movements of the people from the Gate of Hell. Old Turtle said helplessly. Chapter 601. The sea breeze blew against a huge turtle ship as it drifted on the sea. Little Shui was currently playing happily with the 2 water god demons, Yu. These 2 beautiful and powerful creatures could only live in places with water, so they chose to follow Xiao Shui. Now that they were in the sea, they were naturally even happier. They kept flying in the water, splashing the water from time to time. Xiao Shui, who was proficient in all kinds of demon beast languages, was an old acquaintance of the 2 demon fish. He rode on the back of one of the demon fish and helped to splash the water to make it fly. The others weren't as leisurely and elegant as the 3 of them. In order to track the whereabouts of the people from the Gate of Hell, understand the movements of the people from the Gate of Hell, and figure out the route to the Demon Island, the Old Turtle could be said to have put in a lot of effort. However, the sea was Xiao Shui's eyes, not the eyes of others. Xiao Shui explained for a long time, but still couldn't fully convey her meaning to the Old Turtle. This wasn't because Xiao Shui's ability to express herself was poor, but because she wasn't familiar with the situation of the sea. The people from the Gate of Hell seemed to be measuring the direction of the water flow, and the direction of the sea breeze. Xiao Shui wasn't familiar with these and could only describe them once. But when they were all crowded together, it seemed messy. They stopped on a reef, and one of the people from the Gate of Hell was standing on the reef with a lantern in his hand. There seemed to be a soul inside the lantern. They turned the lantern in all 4 directions, as if using the soul to sense the position of the sacred island. After all, the sacred island is full of souls. Maybe this is some kind of spell of the people from the Gate of Hell. Xiao Shui guessed. The Old Turtle was dumbfounded. This kind of abstract description couldn't record the exact route. Muyu had already summoned the array pattern in her hand, and she began to draw mysterious lines of spirit power that surrounded her body. The tyrannical formation pattern quickly blended into the water, and the simple inscriptions gently rippled in the water. "What are you doing?" The old turtle looked at Mu Yu's movements in puzzlement. "Don't you want to see what the other party is doing? Let me help you." Mu Yu smiled. Because the ship had suddenly stopped, every demon came over to ask about the situation. Dragon Vine was slapping the water surface with its tail. It was bored to death. It didn't want to participate in Xiao Shuai's game. Long Xingyun looked at Long Tung maliciously. Then, he heard Mu Yu's words. He sneered and mocked. "Are you dreaming? Don't tell me you want to see for yourself what the people at the gate of hell are doing. Don't get yourself killed when the time comes." Mu Yu glanced at Long Xingyun indifferently. "If you're ugly, you should read more books. Don't judge others with your narrow-minded eyes. Have you forgotten how you lost to Shimen Wujie? You haven't even made a move yet, and you're already down with just a flute. Why don't you learn your lesson?" He cheated. When Long Xingyun thought of this matter, he became even more furious. If the two of them had fought and lost, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, Shimen Wujie had simply played the flute and defeated him. This was truly a disgrace. "He's really good. You're the one who's ignorant. So, I suggest you go back and read more books." Mu Yu never thought that Shimen Wujie's flute playing was a small trick. After all, he was playing the flute openly in front of his opponent. It was not as simple as stealing. Long Xingyun was furious. He wanted to attack, but Long Yeli put his hand on Long Xingyun's shoulder and shook his head. Long Xingyun snorted. He knew that now was not the time to attack, especially when Boss Lu and Elder Turtle were watching his every move. In addition, the other demons who came with him this time were not on his side. The three Dragoncar brothers belonged to the Hidden Forest Black Tiger Dragon faction. Dragon Turtle belonged to the Purple Lightning Winged Dragon faction. Hippopotamus belonged to the Demonic Dragon Python faction. As for the combination stage Crocodile Dragon, although its background and strength were not as strong as the four dragon tribes, it was not to be underestimated. These demon clansmen would not watch as he monopolized the Dragon Vine. Dragon Turtle glanced at Long Xingyun, then looked back at Mu Yu. He quickly asked, "Do you have any way to see what the people in the Gate of Hell are doing?" The inscriptions in Mu Yu's hand had all merged into the water. The surface of the water rippled, setting off the inscriptions. It looked very mysterious. "Xiao Shui, you know what I mean, right?" Mu Yu handed the shadow clone sword to Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui was startled. She suddenly understood what Mu Yu was going to do. Mu Ling was hidden in the shadow clone sword. When Mu Ling came into contact with the water spirit, Mu Yu's controlling ability would undergo some special changes. He even temporarily gained a part of Xiao Shui's ability to control the surrounding water. Xiao Shui nodded. The water spirit on her waist floated out and wrapped around Mu Yu's shadow clone sword. She blushed slightly. This way, she would be able to communicate with Mu Yu. At this moment, the two of them would be able to read each other's thoughts. "Xiao Shui, don't be shy. This isn't the first time we've done this," Mu Yu said casually. Xiao Shui glared at Mu Yu. "Hurry up and use your spell formation. The two of us are a match made in heaven, aren't we?" Mu Yu smiled. Then he felt that something was wrong. He only wanted to say that the fusion of wood and water was a perfect match. However, the words that came out of his mouth changed. "Don't talk nonsense." Xiao Shui pushed Mu Yu. Long Xingyun watched as Mu Yu and Xiao Shui played around intimately. He was about to explode from anger. Xiao Shui was the person he liked. However, she had an unclear relationship with Mu Yu. Needless to say, he was furious. Mu Yu borrowed Xiao Shui's power to control the seawater. The seawater wrapped around the 9 mysterious inscriptions on the surface of the water. A portion of the seawater gradually turned into the inscriptions and floated up from the bottom of the water. Under Mu Yu's control, the inscriptions formed by the seawater turned into green and blue rays of light. The 9 innate array foundations emitted spiritual energy and merged with the spiritual energy array patterns that Mu Yu had already inscribed. The 9 inscriptions sank into the bottom of the sea under the guidance of the array foundations. Then, they quickly surged toward the people from the Gate of Hell. The mirage array formation was a very practical array technique. It could project the scene from one place to another. During the war between the array faction and the talisman faction, this array technique was used to deceive the people from the talisman faction. It was also said that Master Lu had used this array technique to earn a huge sum of money back in Clearwater City. The 9 inscriptions moved quickly in the depths of the sea. In the blink of an eye, they had already surrounded the boat of the people from the Gate of Hell. However, Muyu didn't dare to let the inscriptions get too close. With Gue Yeming's ability, he would definitely discover the existence of the array patterns. Soon, ripples of array patterns appeared on the turtle shell that Muyu was sitting cross-legged on. It turned into the appearance of the people from the Gate of Hell. Because Muyu didn't dare to get too close, the array formation projected by the Mirage Array formation wasn't very clear. It was as if he was looking at it from 50 meters away. However, this was enough. At the very least, everyone could see what the people from the Gate of Hell were doing. I've long heard that there are powerful array masters among the cultivators. They're really amazing, Crocodile Dragon exclaimed. Although Crocodile Dragon's original body was a crocodile, he didn't look as ferocious as expected after transforming into a human. Instead, he looked like a middle-aged man with a hint of elegance. Muyu didn't see any demonic beast characteristics on him. Long Xingyun's expression was very ugly. Just now, he was still questioning Muyu. In the end, he was slapped in the face with his actions. That's great. This way, we'll be able to monitor the actions of the people from the Gate of Hell in real time. Old Turtle was overjoyed when he saw the array patterns displayed by Muyu. At this moment, the people from the Gate of Hell were still standing beside a reef. There was a person from the Gate of Hell standing on the reef. Muyu recognized him. It was the person who wanted to capture Muyu, Gue Han. Just as Qiao Shui said, Gue Han was holding a lantern in his hand. Actually, it wasn't really a lantern. It was more like a birdcage formed by ghost chi. At this moment, there was a soul trembling in the cage. Muyu's pupils shrunk. This soul was actually Duke Red Dragon. Qiao Shui didn't know Duke Red Dragon, so she thought it was a ghost art used by the people from the Gate of Hell. But in fact, the people from the Gate of Hell captured Duke Red Dragon and killed him. They kept his soul and let Duke Red Dragon lead the way. Until now, the only person who knew how to go to the Demon Island was Duke Red Dragon. The people from the Gate of Hell should have used Duke Red Dragon to go there before. But at that time, the people from the Gate of Hell seemed to have met with some accident, causing heavy losses. Only a portion of them managed to escape, because the route to the Demon Island was not fixed and could only be determined by the direction of the sea. Even if they had been there before, the people from the Gate of Hell were not familiar with it. Thus, Duke Red Dragon was still leading the way. That person is Duke Red Dragon. He knows how to go to the Demon Island. Muyu looked at Duke Red Dragon, who was locked in a cage, and felt some sympathy for him. Duke Red Dragon had always been very unlucky. At first, he had a grudge with his wife and had his penis cut off. Later, in order to survive, he knelt in front of Perfected Jiuhua, who was supposed to be his disciple. But Perfected Jiuhua deceived him. The life prolongation pill did not let Duke Red Dragon live for long. Now, he fell into the hands of the people from the Gate of Hell and was killed and locked in a cage to be used as a tour guide. The ship that the people from the Gate of Hell were on was quite big. There were a total of 36 people from the Gate of Hell. 15 of them were out-of-body stage, 12 were function stage, and 8 were body fusion stage. As for the shadow shrouded in black fog, needless to say, it was the Gate of Hell's guardian, Gue Yiming. Gue Yiming's aura was very powerful, far surpassing everyone present. Clearly, these demons could not deal with him. Other than that, Muyu also saw 9 crying babies in the cabin. They were mortal children. Bastard! The people from the Gate of Hell won't even let off children? Muyu cursed in a low voice. Chapter 602. The people from the Gate of Hell waited for an hour before the wind started to blow. At this moment, Duke Red Dragon seemed to have pointed in a direction, and the people from the Gate of Hell started to move again. Old Turtle also controlled his turtle shell to move forward carefully, while Mu Yu's inscription quietly moved with the people from the Gate of Hell as the center. Just like that, the people from the Ghost sect and the Demon clan walked and stopped on the surface of the sea, seemingly drifting aimlessly for 3 days. This boring journey even made everyone doubt their lives. They were surrounded by an endless sea. Seawater was everywhere, making it impossible to see the end. No matter how high one's cultivation was, they would still feel insignificant in the sea. On the 4th day, the waves began to surge violently. They seemed to have entered a turbulent sea. At this time, dark clouds started to float in the sky and covered the sun. The whole sky was very gloomy. The sea wind blew fiercely as if it wanted to sweep people away. However, this little bit of sea wind couldn't do anything to the people on the ship. Everyone was just a little uncomfortable from the oppressive atmosphere. At this time, the people from the Gate of Hell had been waiting for almost a day without moving. What are they waiting for? Are they lost? Longton couldn't help but mutter. The others also didn't know what they were waiting for. While waiting, the people from the Gate of Hell had been quietly cultivating. They were very self-disciplined and didn't even whisper to each other. Gue Hongyu had been taking care of the 9 crying babies. These children were not as fearless as the cultivators. The oldest baby was less than 2 years old, and the rest looked like they had just been born and hadn't been weaned. The people from the Gate of Hell definitely needed the 9 babies alive to use some kind of ghost technique, so they wouldn't let the babies die. However, the people from the Gate of Hell didn't know how to take care of children. Only Gue Hongyu was busy. She jumped into the sea and caught a dolphin from the bottom of the sea. Using a strange method, she made the dolphin float in the air and fed the 9 babies one by one. This scene was very strange. Gue Hongyu is quite good, right? Xiao Shui said. Yes, at least the 9 babies aren't. Mu Yu casually answered. Then he felt that Xiao Shui was mocking him again. So he quickly said, You know, the people from the Gate of Hell do everything for evil purposes. These 9 babies are only alive because they are still useful. If we don't save them, they will eventually die under the ghost technique of the people from the Gate of Hell. You don't need to explain anything to me. I know what you're thinking. Xiao Shui waved the water spirit in her hand. Mu Yu helplessly shrugged. But Long Xingyun said, I don't care how the people from the Gate of Hell want to treat the 9 babies. If the lives of the 9 babies can help us find the location of the Holy Island, then even 90 human children's to die is worth it. Mu Yu looked at Long Xingyun coldly and said, That's what animals think too. What? How dare you compare me to a lowly animal? Long Xingyun angrily said. He was a noble descendant of the Dragon clan. Even though he was a demon with intelligence, he still looked down on animals. I'm not talking about you, because you're worse than an animal, Mu Yu said without hesitation. Long Xingyun was furious. He had accumulated a lot of anger over the past few days. At this moment, he couldn't hold it in anymore and slammed his palm toward Mu Yu. But Xiao Shui had already stood in front of Mu Yu and neutralized Long Xingyun's attack. She coldly said, Xingyun, you must remember this. No matter what race a newborn baby is, it doesn't matter. We must save these 9 babies. No matter what the people from the Gate of Hell want to do, our goal is to foil their plans. Long Xingyun snorted. His eyes looked over Xiao Shui's shoulder and landed on Mu Yu. You rely on a girl to protect you? Are all humans as cowardly as you? You're wrong. Xiao Shui is not protecting me. She's protecting you for being killed by me, Mu Yu said coldly. How arrogant. Long Xingyun's spiritual power was raging. Long Yeli also stood behind Long Xingyun. He was emitting the aura of a form synthesis stage cultivator. He was trying to intimidate Mu Yu with his aura. However, Long Tongue jumped onto Mu Yu's shoulder and roared at all the demons. Everyone's expression changed drastically. The voice of a true dragon was as deafening as thunder in their ears. Everyone could feel their souls trembling. You little bastard, Long Tongue said disdainfully. All the demons' expressions changed again. The only ones on the ship who weren't affected by the word bastard were Boss Lu, Elder Turtle, and the hippopotamus. They didn't have the bloodline of a true dragon, so it didn't matter if their bloodline was pure or not. You're courting death. Long Xingyun squeezed the words out of his teeth. The word bastard had always been a taboo in the dragon clan. They all yearned for the bloodline of a true dragon. However, they were all mixed with the bloodline of other demons. It wasn't an exaggeration to call them bastards. However, no one dared to mention this word. Now, Long Tang's words were like stepping on Long Xingyun's tail. It was a great insult to his self-esteem. Muyu stroked Long Tang's tail. He didn't know what to say. Long Tang had always been arrogant. Ever since he saw Long Xingyun's half-dragon, half-snake form, he felt that Long Xingyun's appearance was an insult to the great beings of the dragon clan. Therefore, he looked down on the other half-dragon demons. However, most of the demons in the Azure Dragon dynasty weren't pure dragons. Long Xingyun wasn't the only half-dragon present. Therefore, Long Tang's words were equivalent to scolding the entire Azure Dragon dynasty. What? Your Lord True Dragon is teaching you half-dragons a lesson. Do you have a problem with that? Muyu wasn't afraid of anything. Now that he was in trouble, he couldn't avoid it. Long Xingyun would attack him and Long Tang sooner or later. It didn't matter if Long Tang was rude. The Dragon Clan definitely wanted to kill Long Tang. Muyu didn't expect Long Tang to be let go of just because he said a few polite words. Long Yeli put his hand on Long Xingyun's shoulder, suppressing Long Xingyun's aura. They couldn't attack openly now. If he wanted to obtain the Dragon Vine's true dragon bloodline, he had to find an opportunity when there were no other members of the Dragon Clan present. Otherwise, if the Azure Dragon Monster King heard of this, he would not let him off easily, regardless of who his grandson or son was. In the eyes of the Azure Dragon Monster King, a true dragon was much stronger than his descendants. After all, dragons were quite arrogant. Back then, the Azure Dragon Monster King's purpose of mating with other monsters was to obtain a pure true dragon. He wouldn't take a fancy to a dragon with a monster's bloodline. Boss Lu said, "Stop arguing, guys. The people of the Gate of Hell are starting to move." The wild wind kept attacking this part of the sea. Huge waves appeared on the surface of the sea. The sea within a 100-mile radius was attacked by the huge waves. However, both the ship of the people of the Gate of Hell and Old Turtle's shell were as steady as Mount Tai in the wild wind and waves. They didn't move at all. The sea was getting bigger and bigger. There were even huge waves that were hundreds of meters high. When the waves hit, you could control them, and the waves automatically went around them. Because of the influence of the waves, the patterns were also affected. The images transmitted by the patterns started to become unstable. Muyu was surprised to find that the ship of the people of the Gate of Hell, which was as steady as Mount Tai, started to shake crazily on the sea. It was as if it would be overturned by the waves at any time. Huge amounts of seawater splashed on every person of the Gate of Hell. These people didn't even try to resist. They let the seawater pour on their bodies, on the ship, and even on the 9 babies. Something's wrong. Muyu came to a realization. The 9 babies had actually stopped crying and were sitting obediently in their cages. Even when the seawater poured on them, they didn't move at all. This was very abnormal. Muyu and Xiao Shui looked at each other. Because of Shui Ling and Mu Ling, the two of them understood what the other was thinking at this moment. Wait here for a moment. Without waiting for the others to ask, Muyu and Xiao Shui stepped on the waves and merged into the sea, rushing in the direction of the people of the Gate of Hell. In order to be safe, they didn't dare to get too close. They only watched the people of the Gate of Hell from afar. When another huge wave came crashing down, the ship of the people of the Gate of Hell was actually cut in half by the huge wave. All the broken ships and the people of the Gate of Hell turned into ghost chi and scattered into the huge waves, disappearing without a trace. It's fake. Muyu was shocked. They never thought that after waiting here for nearly a day, they would see a fake scene. The people of the Gate of Hell had already left at some point and were using ghost techniques to deceive them. What's going on? All the monster race people rushed over and were shocked when they saw the people of the Gate of Hell disappear. All that was left was the huge waves. They had no idea where the people of the Gate of Hell had gone. It seems that the people of the Gate of Hell had long discovered that we were following them. I didn't expect that they would be tricked. Muyu frowned. When they stopped in the morning, the people of the Gate of Hell were still moving. However, when a huge wave suddenly appeared, they disappeared. So many people, including Muyu himself, didn't know how the people of the Gate of Hell had escaped. That's strange. If the Devil's Gate found out that we were following them, with Gue Yeming's cultivation, they should have attacked us directly. Why would they use Devil's art to get rid of us? Boss Lu asked in confusion. Muyu was also thinking about this problem. Gue Yeming's cultivation was higher than all the monster race people. If he wanted to deal with them, it would be more than enough. There was no need for him to go through the trouble of using ghost techniques. Maybe it's because of Qiao Shui? Qiao Shui is in the sea. Her ability can guarantee our safety, old turtle guessed. All the monster race people knew that Qiao Shui had the ability to control water. Therefore, they weren't worried about this trip. If something happened, Qiao Shui could use the water to create a huge bubble to escape. After all, the sea was Qiao Shui's battlefield. Qiao Shui retracted her water spirit from Mu Yu's shadow clone sword. The water spirit turned into a blue sky and covered the sea. However, at this moment, her expression suddenly changed. Not good. There's something wrong with the water here. I can't control the water. Of course you can't control the water. A strange and sour voice sounded around the sea. Then, a black fog suddenly surged up from the surface of the sea. The black fog raised a 100-meter-tall wave around the demons. It stayed in the air and surrounded all the demons in an instant. Chapter 603. Who would have thought that the people from the Gate of Hell were not trying to escape? Instead, they had secretly set up a trap for them. Qiao Shui's expression changed. Back when she was in the second layer of heaven, the people from the Gate of Hell's ghost arts had completely suppressed her and severely suppressed her ability to control water. Now that Gue Yeming had personally made a move, there was no need to think about the result. Everyone, be careful! Boss Lu and Old Turtle protected Muyu behind them. They wanted to protect the dragon vine on Muyu's shoulder. The water god, Demon Ingyu, also jumped out of the sea and disappeared into Qiao Shui's body. Qiao Shui also climbed onto Muyu's body and dragged the dragon vine into Muyu's clothes. You've been following me for so long. It's time for me to properly entertain you. Gue Yeming's terrifying aura made it hard for everyone to breathe. Everyone's expression was very unsightly. Gue Yeming was the guardian of the Gate of Hell. His cultivation had already reached great heights. Judging from his aura, his cultivation was clearly far beyond the form synthesis stage. As for the demon race, the highest cultivation was only at the form synthesis stage. Facing Gue Yeming's unfathomable cultivation, they had no ability to resist. At this moment, a 100-meter-tall wave came crashing down on everyone. It was incomparably terrifying. It was as if the sky was falling down. The entire sea shook violently, causing everyone's heart to be filled with fear. Old Turtle shouted. His turtle shell flashed and brought everyone into his turtle shell. Boom! The huge wave directly pressed down on the turtle shell. Old Turtle's face was extremely pale. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Gue Yeming's strength was too terrifying. When such a huge wave came crashing down, it was as if 10,000 mountains were collapsing. The strength was so great that even Old Turtle, who was at the form synthesis stage, couldn't withstand it. Your turtle shell is quite hard. Gue Yeming's eerie voice sounded again. Following that, everyone felt an unparalleled, terrifying aura crashing down on them. The entire turtle shell was smashed open. Everyone couldn't stand still. This power was too fierce. Even if their cultivation wasn't low, they couldn't react in time. Crack! A crack had appeared on the top of the tortoise shell. Old Tortoise spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. His aura was connected to his shell. Now that his indestructible shell was destroyed, Old Tortoise was gravely injured. Even his back was riddled with ghastly wounds. Old Tortoise, are you all right? Boss Lu anxiously supported Old Tortoise. Old Tortoise, are you all right? Qiao Shui also rushed over. Muyu quickly took out a few healing elixirs and fed them to the old tortoise. These elixirs were originally meant for self-cultivators. He didn't know if they were suitable for the demon clan, but at this moment, he couldn't care less. I'm fine. Old Tortoise forcefully supported himself on Boss Lu's body. However, as soon as he finished his words, that terrifying force pressed down again, and a huge crack appeared on the tortoise shell. Old Tortoise could not hold on any longer and fell into Boss Lu's arms. Tortoise shell threw everyone out and became small again, merging with Old Tortoise. Everyone was swaying in the raging waves, trying to escape, but they were still surrounded by tall walls made of waves. In the water, someone shouted, and all the Demon Clan members reacted immediately. They were all Demon Clan members who were good at swimming, so they could escape by diving into the water in case of an emergency. Therefore, everyone dived into the water without hesitation. However, they had miscalculated. The seawater was now covered by a strange power, which directly bounced them away. The surface of the water was suffused with a monstrous, ghostly aura. It was cold and domineering, causing all the demons to tremble. Muyu remembered that his Mu Ling was the nemesis of Ghost Chi. He wanted to use Mu Ling's Death Chi to neutralize the Ghost Chi in the water. Mu Ling dived into the water, but the force was too strong. Even Mu Ling would take a long time to neutralize it. Gue Yiming would not give them any time at all. Boss Lu was carrying Old Tortoise, who was in a coma. He looked very anxious. However, he still managed to find Muyu in the chaos. Clearly, he was still worried about Dragonvine's safety. Muyu, protect Lord True Dragon. I'll lead the way. Boss Lu handed Old Tortoise to Qiao Shui and turned into a huge elk. This elk was 5 meters tall, and its appearance was not very outstanding. What shocked Muyu was the pair of antlers on Boss Lu's head. They were like intertwining branches, and they were almost 2 meters tall. It was like a tree without leaves, but only branches. Each antler was shining with a sharp light, like an indestructible magic weapon. Muyu was shocked to see Boss Lu's true form. When Boss Lu turned into a human, he only had 2 small antlers on his head. They were not this big at all. But now, his antlers were like heaven and earth. Boss Lu roared, and his whole body lit up with a brown light. All his spiritual energy gathered on his sharp antlers. Then, he turned into a brown shadow and rushed toward the huge waves. Dawn! A terrifying power burst out from Boss Lu's antlers, instantly breaking a huge gap in a monstrous wave controlled by the Ghost Chi. Boss Lu's antlers burst out with a powerful demonic power, instantly holding the gap. Quick, now is the time. Elder Lu roared. Everyone turned into streams of light and passed through the opening created by Boss Lu. They rushed out of the terrifying waves created by Gue Yiming. Everyone rushed over, but at that moment, a pair of giant hands formed from ghostly chi appeared above Boss Lu's head, grabbing his huge antlers in an instant. Hindrance, I didn't expect you to have some skills. Gue Yiming snorted. Run! Boss Lu roared furiously. Then, he was caught by Gue Yiming, and the opening he created disappeared. Boss Lu was trapped in Gue Yiming's terrifying waves. Boss Lu, Qiao Shui shouted anxiously. She wanted to go back to save Boss Lu, but Muyu held her back. In front of Gue Yiming, whose cultivation was unfathomable, they couldn't save Boss Lu. But to everyone's surprise, there was a towering wall of waves that surrounded them. Do you really think you can escape from my 1,000-layered waves? Gue Yiming's eerie voice echoed through the sea. All the demonic beasts felt despair. The Ghost Chi and Gue Yiming's terrifying aura destroyed their hopes of escaping. At this moment, a figure fell from the sky like a sandbag and smashed into the sea. It was Boss Lu. Boss Lu's huge and sharp antlers had been broken. After smashing into the sea, he turned back into his human form. He was on the verge of death. Muyu quickly ran over to help him up. Boss Lu was seriously injured and unconscious. They didn't expect that they would lose 2 form synthesis stage demonic beasts in such a short time. Gue Yiming's strength was really terrifying. Unforgivable, Xiao Shui said with a trembling voice. Mu Yu pulled the water spirit from Xiao Shui's waist and fused it with Mu Ling. Just now, Mu Ling's strength was not enough to dispel the ghost qi. Xiao Shui couldn't control the sea because the sea water was contaminated by Gue Yiming's ghost qi. But the sea water was still water. As long as they could make Xiao Shui unafraid of the ghost qi, they could regain control of the sea water. The two of them connected their minds again and understood what they had to do. The fusion of the water spirit and wood spirit gave them a new understanding of the sea water and the ghost qi. They were shocked to find that with the help of Mu Ling's death qi, the two of them could sense the movement of the sea water. Water spirit's end. Black and white qi surged out of Mu Yu's body and instantly enveloped Mu Ling's body. Countless trees with black branches suddenly emerged from the seawater. The branches were covered with green leaves, and there was a white line in the center of each leaf. The branches in the sea water shook violently and absorbed the ghost qi in the sea water. The sea water in front of them became clear again. Get in. Mu Yu grabbed Boss Lu and Old Tortoise. At the same time, a huge bubble formed in the sea water and enveloped everyone. Then, they dove into the sea water and quickly escaped. Tried to escape? Gue Yiming didn't expect that the fusion of the water spirit and wood spirit would be able to break through his encirclement. However, his cultivation was already very high. A terrifying ghost claw instantly entered the sea water and grabbed at the escaping bubble. The ghost claw's speed instantly caught up with the bubble and slapped it down. Countless green leaves gushed out from outside the bubble. Every green leaf was enveloped by the seawater and surged toward the ghost qi. The countless green leaves were instantly destroyed by the powerful force. However, as they were destroyed, they also took away a trace of the ghost qi. The sky full of leaves covered the ghost claw. When the ghost qi destroyed a leaf, countless green leaves grew out immediately. However, at this moment, another terrifying ghost claw came. Mu Yu couldn't block it in time, and the entire bubble was instantly torn. Everyone was submerged in the sea water and kept struggling at the bottom of the sea. Every Devil Clan member transformed into their true form. They were all Devil Clan members who were familiar with the water. Using their true forms, they were extremely fast in the sea water. Long Xingyun and Long Yeli hugged the big river horse tightly. Although they were dragons, they weren't good at swimming. They weren't as fast as the other Devil Clan members. Mu Yu and Xiao Shui were tightly connected by the water spirit. Mu Yu only had time to grab onto Boss Lu's body. A huge whirlpool suddenly appeared at the bottom of the sea. The powerful suction force was even more terrifying than Gue Yiming's. Everyone couldn't dodge in time and was directly sucked in. If it wasn't for the time of the sea route, I would have killed all of you. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.